watched a movie or sat down and stared at the wall for 2 hours and 12 minutes, nothing would change. Nothing would be different in my life. What I'm saying is the inoffensiveness of this movie genuinely offended me. Why are we okay with this? Let's talk about Baby Grogu in this movie. Introduced in the first Mando season, when the show was still trying to be a space western, and Mando actually had a backstory, and character traits, and opinions, and was slightly morally gray. I'm not saying he was ever like Cassian Andor or something, but you know, he used to be a bounty hunter. Like, that was the idea. Now he's just a full-fledged member of the New Republic. I'm getting away from the task at hand. We were introduced to Baby Yoda in the first season. He didn't have a name yet. Everyone just called him Baby Yoda. Then in season 2, they decided to give him a name, Grogu, which is so funny. The most bankable creation that Disney was ever able to conjure up since buying Star Wars, and they called the thing Grogu. Grogu is a puppet, and I love that about him. They're able to get a lot of cute stuff out of him. He waddles around, has little noises, does cute stuff like holding a cup, and then occasionally he uses his impressive force powers to get them out of a jam. That's Grogu. That's what he's been ever since he was introduced 7 years ago. And he has not developed in any way since. And I, for one, am f***ing sick of this baby. You can only get so much mileage out of this until you start to get diminishing returns. In this movie, it's the same story. He does cute shit and waddles around with the Babu Friends. Speaking of the Babu Friends, is this not just Minions? Is this not just Minions? Anyway, Grogu is never in any danger, and then at the end, he closes his eyes and the music swells, and he uses his force power when all hope is lost to save the day. Maybe this would be cool if it was the first time we saw him using his force power, but it isn't. He's done the same shtick like 5+ times by this time already. When are we gonna move on from this? There's even a point in this movie when the Mandalorian gets injured. He gets poisoned by the dragon snake. Not that anything serious would ever happen, but for plot reasons, he gets momentarily incapacitated. So we get a section of this movie where we are only following Grogu. Except this isn't treated like a dramatic beat where Grogu has to grow up a little. It's just more scenes of Grogu being cute. He's so vulnerable here, we should be fearing for his life. But no, the only time he gets swallowed by like a giant frog, it's played for a comedic beat. He heals the Mandalorian because he beats some fish guy that somehow knows everything that's going on, and he just gives Grogu paste that just magically heals the Mandalorian. Wow, I was so worried! And there's no emotion when he finally wakes up. He just says, this is the way, and we move on. And nothing. And then at the end of the movie, Sigourney Weaver and Dave Filoni fly in on their X-Wings and bomb the Hutts home even though the villains are already dead. By the way, these twin Hutts are the main villains of this movie. They didn't even bother to name them. The only thing worth praising in this movie is the music. The movie itself isn't doing anything, but at least the music feels like it's trying to do something new for Star Wars. Ludwig Göransson, in one single song, took a bigger creative risk than the entirety of the rest of the movie combined. And it paid off. I'm surprised they even let him do that. You know what would have been a really good Mandalorian and Grogu movie? A movie with an actual villain played by someone like, I don't know, Giancarlo Esposito, and then the movie could have actual stakes and conflict and end on an emotional beat where Mando realizes that bounty hunting is no life for Grogu, so he makes the hard but necessary choice to let the child go off and be trained by Luke Skywalker. Then he takes his helmet off and he says goodbye. But oh wait, that already happened! And then they completely reversed it because these two were just too profitable. And now, there's nowhere for these characters to go. YouTube video sounds dramatic, but it's really how I feel right now. I I know people have been saying Star Wars is dying since like the Phantom Menace came out, but I've never felt this defeated, even after the Rise of Skywalker. And now this is the guy who's taking over the reins. It's funny because this is exactly what people have been begging for years. You know, down with Kathleen Kennedy, put Dave Filoni in charge. Well, you got what you wanted. Kathleen Kennedy greenlit Andor. Would Dave Filoni do that? In some ways, I wonder if Andor actually killed Star Wars by being so good that settling for the lesser projects and waving it off like, well, at least we're getting Star Wars. We should be thankful. Just doesn't work anymore. Tony Gilroy proved that there's still life in this franchise. As long as you're an actual artist with a vision and a story to tell, damned what the fans think they want. And now that it's over, I just don't see a future in which we ever reach those heights again. I've just been feeling less and less like an actual fan of Star Wars for a while. After sitting through Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi, The Acolyte, Ahsoka, Mando Season 3, miss after miss after miss. I thought, well, it doesn't matter because Star Wars is and always will be movies. So I'll see how I feel depending on how they make the return to the big screen. And if we're too scared to even give our main character a character trait, then it's not just bad. It's not even fun to talk about. And look, okay, I'm an unabashed lover of the prequels, alright? That's not to say that I'm a prequel defender. For some reason, a lot of people that like the prequels try to downplay or just discredit criticisms. No, all criticisms leveled at the prequels are pretty much all true. I just like watching them and talking about them despite all of them. Because George Lucas took up the bat and he took a massive swing. And he kind of went. And arguably, Rian Johnson did the same thing with The Last Jedi. He took a big swing and he went. Or you could say it was invalidated by Rise of Skywalker. But here, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau didn't take a swing. They were too scared to even pick up the bat. And the very next Star Wars movie is directed by Sean Levy. Kill me. So if this is the direction that Star Wars is now destined to head down, a permanent stasis where every interesting creative idea is sanded out and watered down to make the most non-provocative product with the hopes of dispelling any criticisms through sheer meaningless neutrality, then I don't know how much longer I can call myself a fan of Star Wars.
I didn't know you could treat SML like Safari. I thought you could get the username, okay, Puerto Rican spot. I didn't know you could be like Puerto Rican spot. Yeah, you can do whatever you want on there. That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
I snap a picture of my item, Depop tells me what to charge, and it's listed in second. And the best part is, there are no seller fees. So what it sells for is actually money. Download Depop and turn your profit into a side hustle.
What's good? Fall 2022. Better known as the movie where two people get stuck on a radio tower, which sounds kind of cool and interesting until you have to ask, how did they get 1 hour and 47 minutes out of this premise? What even happened? Well, as one of the few people who actually watched this whole movie, as opposed to just watching clips of it on TikTok with an AI voiceover,
The girl was hanging by a rope 2,000 feet above, and her friend at the top pulled her up with all his strength.
I can confirm some stuff happened. Not a lot, but some. I was inspired to talk about this movie because a trailer for Fall 2 just recently released this month. That's right, baby. It's a franchise. And this time it's called Fall 2 New Heights. Just kidding. It's called Fall 2 Dead Point. Why didn't they call it Fall 2 New Heights? I mean, these are stupid ass movies. Let's get a little tongue-in-cheek with it. No one knows what Dead Point is. That doesn't mean anything. Or you could have at least called it like Fall 2, Far 2 Live. Fall lands in this very specific subgenre of one location thrillers. And for some reason, I've been absolutely fascinated with this type of movie my entire life. The beauty of this type of film is in its elevator pitch. Like, people get a chairlift. Guy gets stuck in a haunted hotel room. Ryan Reynolds is buried in a coffin. People get trapped in a cube. People get trapped in a hypercube. Drake and Josh get stuck in their treehouse. People get stuck in a 24-hour ATM. And Josh is here too. And no matter how bad the movies are reviewed, something about just that little nugget of a premise is enough to make me sit down and watch the entire movie for some reason. Perhaps if only to see what creative lengths they have to go to pull a whole movie out of such limited circumstances. And oftentimes, your expectations are not met at all. And you realize the whole thing was a waste of time. Other times, a shockingly effective and engrossing movie can come out of it. Like, in my opinion, the king of one location thrillers, Saw 1. What works so well about Saw is that everything plays out like a puzzle box or an escape room. We set up all the circumstances of the scenario, like the size of the room, the ankle cuffs, then we introduce new factors as well, with the specific items they have at their disposal that they can use to try and get out of the scenario. We also have reveals as we go to uncover who these characters are and what they're doing in this position.
You know it's you son of a bitch!
Callie? Then you throw in an exciting twist at the end as the cherry on top. And boom, you have a great movie. Involved actually do kind of attempt to follow this model of the escape room. We set up all the things they have at their disposal, including a flare gun, a drone, 2 smartphones, a bit of rope, and the clothes on their back. In the movie, they do not have service at the top of the tower, but there is service at the bottom. Even though they're at a high vantage point with clear sightlines to the horizon, which I would assume would give them pretty good service, these are the rules of the film, okay? So you have to at least accept that. So they draft an SOS message and they just have to get the phone to the bottom of the tower so it will be delivered without the phone shattering. How do they do? If you said tie the phone to the drone and then fly it down, you'd be dead wrong. If you said fly the drone with a handwritten note towards the nearest diner over a busy roadway, then you'd be correct. But clearly I'm already getting ahead of myself. First, we have to talk about how these 2 crazy kids found themselves at the top of a 2,000-foot tall radio tower in the first place. The answer is, as with all things worth doing, for the IG story. Let's drop it.
Detroit style buffalo chicken pizza. This is literally one of my favorite things ever. Just look at this pizza. Piled high with buffalo chicken, celery, blue cheese, one of my favorite things ever. Spinach artichoke dip from Mainstay by Mark Murphy. Look at how creamy and cheesy this is. This is my favorite spinach artichoke dip. It actually tastes like heaven. It is that good. Next up is my favorite sandwich. It is the fried chicken deluxe by Marcus Samuelson. Also, add hot maple chili sauce on this. It is so crispy and delicious. If you're feeling Thai, I am telling you, you have to get the drunken chicken noodles. This might be my #1 rep. I'm a sweet treat kind of girl. I gotta end the meal with a sweet treat, and they have Magnolia Bakery banana pudding. So creamy, it is so delicious. It's banana pudding with cookie wafer bits in it, and it is the perfect ending to your wonder.
Time exists to help everyday Americans make it. When you get paid on your terms, your world opens up, and your people start to thrive. That's with your mail. Download the Chime app today.
Some thrill seekers go climbing towers just for a rush of adrenaline. But if you want to rush without risking your life, you should try out today's sponsor, Whatnot. Whatnot is the #1 live stream shopping app. You can score vintage clothes, trading cards, electronics, and more, all in real time. Every live stream you see is like its own virtual auction, all contained in a social media app. It's also a great social community for enthusiasts and collectors, or people who just want to experience the thrill of an auction. Personally, I'm really into vintage and thrifted clothing, so I joined my first live stream of someone auctioning off throwback finds. After watching multiple pieces get picked up by the chat, I decided to jump in for a jacket that caught my eye. I was then able to score this Polo Harrington 80s windbreaker, which genuinely would have been a legendary find at my local thrift shop, and at a price I would never get anywhere else. Thank you, Chicote. And it all happened within minutes of opening up the app. There's nothing I love more than buying stuff on my phone. stories, there's something for everyone on Whatnot. So what are you waiting for? Get $15 off your first Whatnot purchase anywhere on the app by using the QR code on screen or by clicking my link in the description. Thank you so much to Whatnot for sponsoring this video. Now back to the video. The movie opens up with a rock climbing scene. We follow 3 people, a couple who are just so in love and seem to be on the no you hang up first level of just a picturesque relationship, and their daredevil friend who's free soloing next to them on, I guess, some Alex Honnold I have no amygdala type shit. But after the husband, Dan, tries to position his anchor inside of a bird's nest for some reason, a bird flies out and jump scares him, causing him to entirely leap away from the rock face and hang in midair. And I'm sorry, but this part just looks so goofy. This was not an expensive movie, but a lot of the other shots around the tower later on look really great. So I wonder what happened here. He can't swing to the rock face, so Becky, this is Becky by the way, unhooks herself to give him more rope. Hey, maybe don't do that? Did you consider maybe don't do that? So when the anchor gives, he free falls to his dad. Okay, now we have our tragic backstory. But this is so goofy, it's hard to feel anything other than amusement or embarrassment. And I feel like we're already getting to the core problem I have with this film. It doesn't know what it is. This film tries to play it so straight and so serious, when they should really be having fun with this stupid premise. I genuinely believe if they just took a dummy of the actor and just threw it off a cliff, they would have gotten better results. It would have been funnier, maybe, but it definitely would have been so much more endearing. So if your shot is gonna look like this, just get more creative and have more fun with it. After this, Becky is horribly depressed. She's an alcoholic and just pushing everyone away. And it even gets to the point later on that night when it appears she's about to attempt when she gets a call from her friend Hunter. And Hunter's plan to pull Becky out of her endless pit of greed is to climb a 2,000-foot tall, rusty, abandoned radio tower for Instagram. Because Hunter is an influencer who goes by the name of Danger B. This just seems to be such a classic screenwriting pitfall. So many movies try to avoid modern topics and set their films a bit in the past or just in a weird world where no one has smartphones just because of shit like this. It just feels so hammy because we all live in this world and we know what it's like. So if you write a movie that includes an element of that, but you don't get it right, it just sticks out so obnoxiously. Because as we all know, influencers say their hashtags out loud, right? As opposed to just writing them down in the video description afterwards, right? Oh my god, my pic just got 500 hits! I'm going hashtag viral!
Holy shit, 300 likes.
So throughout the movie, even when Becky clearly sets her boundaries, like saying, hey, I don't really want to do that because I have trauma from climbing, if you might recall, Hunter just keeps pushing and using cheap sayings like, you can't live in fear, or using genuinely toxic phrases like, the old Becky would have done it.
The old Becky would have done it.
But she goads Becky into joining her mission. So if it hasn't been made clear yet, this movie is attempting to be a meditation on grief and trauma. The problem is, it's extremely reductive and even kind of harmful at times in my dad away who only wants to help her. Alright, that makes sense. The point that her dad is making, though, is that she's putting her dead husband on a pedestal.
I said that maybe he didn't belong on this pedestal that you were putting him up on.
Kind of weird, but then he's proven right, because it's revealed that he wasn't as good of a guy as she thought. What? He actually was cheating on her with her best friend. Turns out he's not as good of a guy as she thought, so she can...
Why does every purchase during payday week trigger fight or flight? Be me, anxiously trying to regulate during the last week before payday. Thankfully, this was the old me and I didn't need a meditation session to pull me back from the edge of sin during pay week anymore. Why? Because I have earned it. With Earn It, I can access the money I've already earned. Up to $150 a day with a max of $1,000 in between my paydays. There's no more mental gymnastics or nervous breakdowns. It's accessing my money on my own timeline. Tired of your nervous system being triggered by the 2-week pay cycle? Earn It is your answer. Download the app and see what's available for each day.
isn't shopping. Get it today.
Get over it now.
No, he was right about damn. I was just trying to help you.
It's such a cop-out to allow the main character to move on with her life guilt-free. It feels so lazy. Also, the movie wants to tackle the topic of self-harm, but then they have her go and do something actually but now it's framed like she's taking her agency back. When you deliberately portray your character as a potential harm to herself, but then frame these extremely selfish, irresponsible, and destructive actions as some kind of epic win, it just feels a little icky to me. But anyways, once they get started, it instantly becomes obvious that this whole thing is a stunt for Instagram. And when Becky says she doesn't want to be in the video, Hunter violates that boundary too. Now look, I get it. All influencers are soul-sucking parasites. So this character makes perfect sense, right?
I think it's so hanging right there.
It's just funny how they try to act like she has this heart of gold underneath, and the whole influencer thing is just a persona. Becky says that she should be herself on Instagram instead of Danger D. Except when she's being herself, it's just her saying really empty platitudes about how you can't let fear control your life. And it sounds so cringy and so fake.
Do not let this fear consume you. Come at it head on and kick its ass.
But it just comes across like the writers saying, we need more real stuff on social media instead of all the bullshit. But the real stuff is just faux wisdom that would go right at home on one of those wood board things that you get at Pottery Barn that you hang in the kitchen. And even when she's not recording, she's still just as annoying and reckless. Hunter even tells Becky that she got over Dan's death, so Becky should be able to as well.
After Dan died, I was afraid of my own shadow. But I pushed through.
I mean, look at me. I was sad over your husband's death, but now I'm over it. See, it's just that easy. So her Instagram persona, it's still just her. She's just using a little bit of charisma. So the whole thing just feels so out of touch. She almost causes a semi-truck accident because she's recording while driving, and then she posts a dead, bleeding out deer on May. Dude, her account would be getting nothing but unadulterated hate 24/7. And when they get stuck on the tower, it's nothing but the consequences of their own actions. So it's just hard to feel sympathy for these characters. There would be a moist, critical video dropping the next day called The Danger D Situation is Crazy. So they get to the tower, hop the fence, ignore the signage, but I do have to give it to this movie. When they start climbing the tower, it's pretty well done. They do a really good job of actually invoking that stomach-churning feeling that you get with heights. We get close-ups of the rusted metal and the little bolts moving, and the performance from the lead actress is actually doing a lot of the heavy lifting towards making you feel like they are climbing up this tower. I did actually feel like I was locked in during this part. And they get to the top, again, there's some pretty great shots. And for some reason, to overcome her fear and I guess her grief, Hunter makes Becky hang off the edge while only hanging on to her hand. Are we serious, dude? And then they spread Dan's ashes, and it's a very somber, drawn-out moment. I appreciate that this movie wants to have heart and subtext, or I shouldn't even say subtext, I should just say text, because there's nothing sub about it. All of the themes and everything this movie wants you to feel is said out loud every 5 seconds.
Life is short. Too short. You gotta use every moment.
It's just so schmaltzy and overdone.
You have to do something that makes you feel alive. And that shit, that would spread that message far and wide.
But to be fair, this movie does deliver on its premise. They really do get stuck on top of a radio tower, which begs the question, how will they get down? Once their ladder breaks and they become trapped on the tiny little platform at the top of the tower, they're in a pretty bad situation. Becky has a bad leg wound, and the bag with the drone and all of their water has fallen down onto this dish a little ways down. So they attempt a few things to get out of this situation. They don't have service, but even so, every iPhone comes with a built-in SOS beacon. But look, iPhones ruin movies. So sometimes you just have to accept that phones work unrealistically just so the movie can happen, okay? Even still, instead of trying to contact 911 or some kind of emergency service, Hunter decides to try and make an Instagram post saying that they're stuck and begging people for help, which is just way more of a risk. Like, I don't understand. She has a big following, but you're still relying on complete strangers in the fact that they will not assume that it's a hoax or a prank. Either way, they put her phone into her shoe with a sock and her bra. Then they chuck it off the tower, only for it to be demolished on impact. Now, to be fair, at this point, the drone is still in the bag. So it's not until after the phone breaks and they realize no one's coming that she risks going down to try to get it. Even still, they did not give the phone a good enough chance to make it to the bottom unscathed. They should have taken off all their clothes, okay? And I'm not saying this out of horniness, but take off all your clothes, tie it into a giant ball that you can wrap around the phone. And I mean, your only hope at this point, because they don't know if they can reach the bag, is dropping the phone. Except for one thing, actually, I forgot about the flare gun. Okay, let's talk about the flare gun. To me, this is one of the dumbest things in the entire movie. So they have one flare and decide to wait till dusk to use it to ensure that people will see it. There are these two drifters having a barbecue outside their RV in close proximity to the tower. So they shoot the flare and it's framed like their only hope is these two guys. Luckily, the guys see the flare, realize they're up there, only for them to go and steal their shit and leave them there. Are you f***ing serious, dude? I'm sure. But whatever, the thing is you shot a flare off in the night sky at the top of a tower, which is going to be visible for miles around. Especially the diner they were eating at the previous night, plus all the planes flying by. But no, of course, the flare gun was only put there just in case two guys were having a barbecue in their RV in close proximity in the desert, because otherwise there'd be no point in shooting off a flare at the top of the tower. This might be the most nonsensical shit in the film. They realize no one's coming, so Hunter uses the rope to lower herself to try to get the bag. It's not long enough, so she has to untie herself and then jump off. Then she gets the backpack, puts it on the rope, and then has to leap again to try to land on the backpack. Then she climbs up while Becky is also lifting her up on the same rope. But right at the top, Hunter falls. However, we're robbed of her falling off the tower as she grabs back onto the bag and Becky pulls her up. There's a twist here, however. It is later revealed that in this moment, Hunter actually did not catch the bag. She fell to her death and landed on this dish perfectly. And for the rest of the movie, Becky is just hallucinating Hunter being there. This is the stupidest f***ing twist and actually ruined the rest of the movie for me. I think this could have actually been a somewhat enjoyable movie if they didn't try to do this pull the rug out from under you bullshit. A good twist should make a movie better in retrospect, not worse. So instead of upping the stakes and giving us a shocking death moment, you know, the fall that we've been waiting for this entire time, and then having that oh shit moment where you realize Becky is now completely on her own, we just keep Hunter in the movie. Not to mention that in your head you're thinking how stupid it is that she was able to fall from that height and catch the backpack on her way down at the end of the road. Even if it's revealed later on that that didn't actually happen, in the moment I still rolled my eyes and lost faith in the movie. I can't now retroactively not feel that emotion that you made me feel. It's as if the writers and the filmmakers had no confidence in their ability to pull off the rest of the film without dialogue, so they panicked and kept her in the movie just so that they could continue to say out loud to each other what they're feeling and thinking and doing the rest of the time. And just to reiterate, I've been waiting this whole stinking movie to see one of these characters face the repercussions of their dumbass actions. The movie is called Fall, and this is the poster. For the price of admission, you have to show me at least one person plummet to their death off this f***ing tower. That's why we're here, dude. It's like, no, you have to rob me of that. And then later on, just show me that she's been already dead, just a little bit further down, perfectly on this dish. Anyway, she now has the drone and tries to fly it to the diner. But it's out of battery, so she has to scale this pole vertically like 25 feet upward with no shoes on and stick the charger into the light socket and then just hang there for hours while charging. And while she's doing this, she's getting accosted by vultures. This director must hate birds, dude. Birds are the ultimate evil in the Fall universe. So she gets the drone charged and tries to fly it to town, only for it to get obliterated by a semi-truck, which was so funny. This actually played like a comedic beat. 75 on the fax truck go. To 75, great fight.
Reddit. Install it now.
So why didn't she just tie the phone to the drone and fly it down? Technically, it seems like she needs the phone to connect to the drone, and the other phone is gone. But it's also not specifically said that she needs her phone. As far as I can tell, the phone connects, and then it's just there to show you where the drone is going. But she doesn't need to know where it's going. She just needs to fly it downward. Just connect to the drone and tie the phone to it and fly it down until it's in range for the text message to deliver. But no. So with all hope lost, her only choice is to play dead and then kill a vulture and eat its raw meat for energy. What the f***, dude? Not only is she just gonna start vomiting and having diarrhea from eating raw poultry, but she's dehydrated, so her body can't even digest anything she eats. But this somehow gives her superpowers, and she's able to scale down the tower on the rope, then leap to the dish where Hunter's body is, no problem. She then shoves the phone into Hunter's shoe, and then shoves the shoe into Hunter's open body cavity. Then she pushes the whole body off. Why was the shoe necessary? Like, I feel like her putting the phone in the shoe, then trying to shove that in her body, risks having the shoe fly out when she pushes the body off of the tower. But whatever, I don't even know why I'm going on about this. She gets rescued somehow. I'd like to see how they got her down from there, but whatever. We end with Conquest showing up, and we get a nice moment between him and his daughter, and he's like, let's get you home. I'm sorry? Let's get her to a f***ing hospital before she dies from blood poisoning from her infected wound. What are you talking about? She also says, I'm gonna be okay now, Dad. I'm really gonna be okay. So what's the message here? That if you have a traumatic experience, just go and have an even more traumatic experience and they'll cancel each other out? Like, how is she going to be okay after that? And that's fall. I pretty much skipped over all the drama that's revealed about how Hunter was secretly sleeping with Becky's fiance because I just couldn't be bothered to care about this drama. Plus, we already went over how shitty of a person Hunter is, and that's just adding on top of it. Like, dude, whatever, you get the picture. Safe to say, I cannot wait for Fall 2 New Heights. Apparently, we're going to be following Hunter's older sister as she and her friend go to Thailand to do a dangerous mountain plank walk as a tribute to Hunter. So it's the exact same f***ing premise. I really hope they make 10 Fall movies and every one is just the characters doing some dangerous bullshit as a tribute to one of the characters who died in the previous movie. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. The Predator franchise review should be coming out next month, so stick around for that. Thank you so much to my lovely patrons. If you want to support me, it's in the description. And that's all I got for today. So bye-bye, kisses.
Never got each other's numbers on Duet, but call me if you want things to change and be serious.
Okay. Bro, what? Dude, I think I just got finessed into love. What is going on?
Imagine you're a Hollywood studio. You want to make a movie about, I don't know, monster cows or something. Everyone loves the monster cow idea. You greenlight the movie, put millions of dollars into this fresh idea, but then that's when you find out. Another studio's making a monster cow movie too. How did this happen? Did they steal the idea? Was it just a coincidence? Doesn't matter now. I guess we just got 2 monster cow movies releasing in the same exact year. These are called twin films. Sometimes Hollywood just makes two movies about the same idea in the same year. Sometimes script ideas just float around and are picked up by studios. Other times executives take ideas with them to their new job. It's a thing that happens for some reason, and I find it incredibly funny. Like how Bug's Life is about an outcast inventor finally using his abilities to save his home, and how Ants is about Woody Allen in Starship Troopers. The year is 1998, a year which had literally every good game ever made, American Godzilla, and for some reason, two movies about the Earth getting hit with an asteroid, Deep Impact and Armageddon. Two films see humanity facing an apocalyptic threat. An asteroid, or comet, is about to hit the planet, and a small band of astronauts have to stop it. That is where the similarity between these movies end. Yeah, this isn't gonna be like that White House video at all, where they're pretty similar with some minor differences. Oh no, these movies couldn't be farther apart in tone.
No, we can't do anything about the little one, but, it just might give them a chance.
Deep Impact begins with Elijah Wood discovering a comet that's going to hit the Earth. Nobody knows it yet, though, except for this guy. But for some reason, he decides to text a drive, and his car goes right off the cliff, and he fucking explodes. There's a real lesson there somewhere. Our real protagonist is this journalist lady named Jenny, who works for MSNBC. Yes, that MSNBC. You're gonna see a lot of MSNBC in this movie. They needed the promotion. They wouldn't have that guy with the board for like 20 more years. There's a mystery afoot. The Secretary of the Treasury resigned. Apparently, the Secretary has been wrapped up in someone called Ellie. Is Ellie his mistress? The first 30 minutes are just her investigating this political scandal of a top government official in the executive branch cheating on his wife.
Congratulations. You now have the biggest story in history.
Fun fact, the Monica Lewinsky scandal broke in January 1998, and this movie came out in May. Talk about some timing.
Biggest story in history? What an ego. Kevin is the president.
Anyway, while investigating these extramarital shenanigans, Jenny finds herself wrapped up in something far, far bigger. She gets kidnapped by President Morgan Freeman and is told to shut up until they get a press conference around. While investigating further, Jenny finds out that Ellie might not have been a side girl at all, but perhaps might have meant ELE, or Extinction Level Events. Ooh. It's so funny she discovers this by just doing an internet search. Literally only gets one option on the page. What a simpler time. I like these first 40 minutes. Enjoy the mystery of it. I mean, yeah, we know what the government is hiding. We all know what movie we're watching. But it's a decent way of building up tension. Having the protagonist uncover the information. The Secretary basically admits the world's gonna end and it goes right over Jenny's head. I like stuff like that. And then the mystery dies. The president just lore dumps to everyone what's going on. Morgan Freeman expositions to the audience. The comet is coming. This is where comets come from. This is what aimed the comet. Whoa, wait a minute. Introduces the astronauts who are going to blow up the comet just to make sure everyone's on the same page. Hey, look, it's Jon Favreau. From this point on, this is now just an entirely different movie. Jenny gets relegated to news anchor for the rest of the film. The only thing she has to deal with anymore is parental drama. Her mom and dad are divorced, and she's not taking it well. The whole second act really follows the astronauts. And for some reason, they're introduced as arrogant jerks. They're the new hotshots that think they're better than their old commander, Robert Duvall, an older veteran who literally went to the moon.
I got respect for everybody down at the moon. This mission ain't going to the moon.
That's right. Frank Gifford, he was a great football player in his time, but if he plays now, he get his ass busted. Who's gonna call your mom?
Sorry, the Apollo?
What if I told you that you don't have to wait until payday? That's why y'all need to know about Earn It. With Earn It, you can access up to $150 a day of money that you've already earned with your paycheck. With a max of $1,000 between paydays, you can choose how much to cash out any day that you need to, and without any mandatory fees. It's literally just something to give you more control over when you actually get your money. You're working hard every day, right? So why not actually get paid like it? Download the app, connect your bank account, and see what's available for you.
old news. We're the new generation. We practice on simulations running Windows 95. Why did they do that? It's so odd to introduce them like this. Real people, especially highly trained astronauts, would not act like this. I get what the movie's trying to do. They're jerks at the start, but through adversity, they come to appreciate Robert Duvall later on. But the arrogance is laid on so thick at the beginning that I just kind of dislike these characters now.
It's not a video game, son.
Hell, we're not even halfway through the film, so I know they're gonna fail anyway.
It's not a video game, son.
Then the rest of the movie is them learning to respect their commander while floating out in space. Glad they all learned the important lesson of not being rude to old people. Except for Jon Favreau, he's fucking dead. With the nuke plan failing, Morgan Freeman announces Plan B, shooting The Rock with even more nukes. I find it even funnier how well the general public is taking this news.
There will be enough of us left to rebuild a new world in the unlikely event that the comets do strike the Earth.
Like, Morgan Freeman tells everyone that if the meteor does hit, the world's gonna end. And they can only put less than 1 million people into underground bunkers. Imagine if the president went on today and just told Americans they were all going to die. You think they'd be this calm? There's riots in other countries, I guess, but not America. The most armed population in the world, and everyone just stands outside these well-known bunkers only to be slightly sad. Other than exposition, Morgan Freeman really doesn't do much. Just sits around waiting for plans to fail. Remember how Elijah Wood discovered that comet? Well, he's got a whole subplot here. I'm assuming they wanted to show a normal person's perspective on the whole situation. But it's not really done very well. There's an underage wedding. That's kind of odd.
What the hell?
Okay, so Elijah Wood and his family got accepted into the government bunker because he discovered the comet, right? Well, he wants his little girlfriend and her family to join them too, which is why the whole underage marriage thing happens. The U.S. government saw through that clever disguise and forces her parents to stay behind. So she does too. So Frodo and his family reach the bunker. But right before he goes in, he realizes that he needs to go back and save her somehow.
I have to go back for Sarah. Mom, I'm going.
Kinda seemed like a decision you should have made before getting on the bus, but oh well. He's confident though that he can go back and get her somehow before the comet hits. His parents hear this plan and just let him do it.
I'm gonna make it.
They don't even argue against this idea, which is certainly fatal. His very own father looks at his 14-year-old and goes, okay, have fun. Even if his parents believed he could save her, neither of them go back with him to make sure he finds her safely, or, survives. They all just go into the bunker. The world is literally ending, and they just wave their kid off on a journey across Middle-earth, staying behind in the actually safest place you could possibly be. After the missiles fail, Morgan Freeman gets on TV and just tells everyone they're gonna die.
And there's nothing we can do to stop it. Would you say it's time for everyone to panic? Yes, I would, man.
He is just not holding back.
So, this is it. The world does go on. Will not go on for everyone.
Most of Deep Impact is about the emotions of it all. Preparing for the inevitable, reflecting on the end. Do we reconcile with family despite past grievances? Or do we straight up off ourselves like Jenny's mom did? Oh boy. Jenny's mom's entire arc is just so depressing. Her husband leaves her for a younger woman, right? Basically destroys their family for no good reason. And when she hears the news that nobody over the age of 50 will be let into the bunkers, she just gives up and ends it all. So after that first detonation failed, the comet split in two, with a smaller fragment of the comet going to hit Earth before the bigger one does. And the smaller fragment actually does hit right into the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Whenever anyone actually remembers Deep Impact, this is the scene they remember. Jenny decides to give up her place at the bunker to save her friend. She decides to reunite with her dad on the beach they once went to as a family. They share one final moment together as the wave comes in. Fans of the movie really like this scene. I get it. But this just makes her mom's death even worse. Like, her mom died alone and depressed, all because of her dad.
I feel like an orphan.
Yet at the end of the movie, Jenny just does a 180 so we could have this final scene. I don't know, maybe if they didn't have the mom die like that, this wouldn't leave such a bad taste in my mouth. Have her die in an accident or something. Fall down the stairs. Slip it on ice cube.
Reddit. Download now.
It's a one-on-one true RPA Call of Duty. Actually, I'm chosen.
Where was I? Oh yeah, Elijah Wood dirt bikes up a mountain to escape a tsunami. The astronauts sacrifice themselves to destroy the bigger comet, and everyone is saved. You know, except for the ones that weren't. Humanity may be battered, millions may have died, but at the end of the day, the federal government of the United States survived. And isn't that all that really matters?
If you don't trust the man you're working with, you're as good as dead.
Armageddon begins with all the dinosaurs on fire. This is a movie called Armageddon. This is what the Earth is going to look like unless Bruce Willis stops it. But in case that didn't go through your thick skull, here's the space shuttle exploding. Hell, have New York explode too. Especially this guy. They really did this guy dirty. All he was trying to do was protect his Godzilla, and he gets absolutely obliterated. At least the tower survived. There's an asteroid on the way, and they got 18 days to stop it. All the nerds have dumb suggestions, except for Lucius Malfoy, who says that to destroy the asteroid, you're gonna have to drill into the center and blow it up from the inside. There's only one man for the job, and that's Bruce Willis. In the movie, he's actually named Harry, but it's a lot funnier to say Bruce Willis. Harry/Bruce Willis is an undersea oil driller, and I'm not even joking, the way they introduce him is as he's shooting golf balls at Greenpeace protesters. Joke's on him though, Ben Affleck's banging his daughter. What a way to introduce these characters. This is just the first 15 minutes, by the way. In the same span of time, Jenny was interviewing the Secretary of the Treasury.
Turn the camera on.
Meanwhile, Armageddon is doing this.
I love her. Way wrong answer!
So yeah, the plan is simple. Get the best drillers in the world, shoot them up into space, plant the nuke, hope for the best. Billy Bob Thornton and Keith David now have to make sure Bruce Willis and his gang of morons are up to the task of deep space travel. Let's introduce our little Suicide Squad, shall we? There's Chick, Harry's number 2. He's divorced and a gambling addict. Steve Buscemi is a sex pest. Max is fat. Michael Clark Duncan is Michael Clark Duncan. And Owen Wilson is here too, who I entirely forgot was in this. He fucking dies. Will these chuckle nuts have what it takes to save the world? Who's to say? Half the movie is them on Earth doing wacky hijinks preparing to go to space, and the other half is them being in space. Also, there's that weird scene in the middle with the animal crackers. You know the one. If Deep Impact was an intellectual nerd, Armageddon was the jock shoving that nerd in the locker. Deep Impact treated the entire situation of an outer space object potentially hitting the Earth in a quasi-scientific and all-around serious manner. Meanwhile, Armageddon went, holy shit, there's rocks fucking falling from space. I like Deep Impact. I appreciate what it's trying to do. Explore an end-of-the-world scenario in a grounded way. Nothing wrong with that. Those behind the film tried their very best to be as scientifically accurate as possible. And that's respectable. Even if it wasn't perfect, it's the thought that counts. If someone says they like Deep Impact more, I get it. With that said, though, I fucking love Armageddon so much more, man.
So much fun and freaky.
You know this channel, you should have seen this coming. It's a Michael Bay movie, like of course I was gonna pick it. Even after I'm done with Bayformers, I still can't escape him. Despite this whole parasocial relationship between me and Bay beginning with that video about Transformers 2007, that was ironically not my first Michael Bay film. this was. Even to this day, when I think about Michael Bay action, Armageddon is what mainly pops into my mind. Hell, since I brought up Transformers, so many Bay elements that are famous in those movies have origins in this one. Shots that were recycled, asteroids, Michael Bay's obsession with NASA, ethnic stereotypes. Wait, fuck. Is Armageddon the beta test of Transformers, like the Halo Macworld demo? Or is Transformers an evolution of Armageddon? Certainly something to think about. As much as someone can argue that Deep Impact is the better film, it's certainly not as interesting to talk about. Unless you want to compare it to this, of course. Hell, just compare these two openings. Deep Impact's is silent, a white, clean font on the night sky, and Armageddon starts with the extinction of the f***ing dinosaurs. Even the title explodes. The comet in Deep Impact is discovered by a couple of nerds doing astronomy stuff. And when they spot it, they have at least a couple of years to prepare for its arrival. The asteroid in Armageddon does a sneak attack.
It's a breach in the atmosphere from Finland down the North American seaboard.
It's only when the space shuttle explodes and when New York City is in absolute devastation when anybody at NASA notices that an asteroid is about to hit in 2 weeks. An asteroid the size of Texas. My personal favorite comparison is the very name of the bodies themselves. Deep Impact names its comet after those that discovered it. The combined name of Wolf Peterman. A realistic, kind of boring name, but it fits the tone of the film. I can imagine actual scientists of the 90s naming this thing. Armageddon's asteroid, on the other hand, is named Dottie, named by this guy after his bitch wife.
I want to name her Dottie after my wife. She's a vicious, life-sucking bitch from which there's no escape.
It's 10 p.m. Do you know what your developers have installed?
Some things are worth protecting. Your devices are among them. Learn more at internet website aikido.dev/10pm.
Ready to de-stress your travel plans? Here's how Lyft gets it done. You can schedule your airport drop-off up to 90 days in advance. You'll lock in your price and pick up time and avoid any last-minute price surges. Plus, if your driver is more than 10 minutes late, you get up to $100 in Lyft cash. There's a ride option for everyone. Enjoy some downtime with an extra comfort ride, or keep the whole crew together with the Lyft XL, big enough for your group and all their luggage.
What's the one thing people always make fun of Armageddon for? What's the most common joke everyone says that many are probably commenting right now? It's the classic question, why send oil drillers into space instead of just teaching astronauts how to dig? Ha ha! Being an astronaut is a far harder job than being an oil driller, so this movie is stupid. Michael Bay, you dumb fool. There's an often repeated story about how in the DVD commentary, Ben Affleck just makes fun of the whole premise of the movie.
I asked Michael why it was easier to train oil drillers to become astronauts than it was to train astronauts to become oil drillers, and he told me to shut the fuck up.
Yes, how hilarious. That's what makes this movie so silly. Nobody ever talks about how fucking big the asteroid is. Okay, so in Deep Impact, the comet was 7 miles wide. The size of the one that killed the dinosaurs, which was about 10. You know how big the asteroid in Armageddon is? 600 miles. 600 miles wide. That's not an asteroid. That's a moon. That's almost the size of Pluto. Dottie wouldn't be jagged and pointy. It wouldn't have a weird cloud of evil surrounding it. It'd be a sphere. NASA didn't just miss the existence of an asteroid. They missed the existence of an undiscovered planetoid. This thing is fucking Planet Nibiru that was supposed to kill us in 2012. When Billy Bob Thornton said this,
Doesn't matter where it hits. Nothing would survive, not even bacteria. My God.
he was honestly underplaying the severity. If this thing actually hit, not even the Earth's upper crust would survive. It would have stripped away the entire upper layer of the planet, down to the mantle. Earth would just become liquid for a moment, as everything ripped into space. They couldn't just have a pretty big asteroid that was big enough to cause a KT-level extinction event. Couldn't even have something twice as big. No, they had to have something 100 times bigger. Yet the plan is to still send Bruce Willis and his team of chucklenuts to blow it up.
You think we'll get hazard pay out of this?
It's kind of beautiful, isn't it? They just had to make an asteroid with the most dramatic size possible without even thinking about it. Something so big, it accidentally broke the film. I don't care much about scientific realism in movies. As long as the story is entertaining, everything's okay. But man, it's just so funny they made this fake asteroid way too big for no reason. Who knows, maybe they just think you can blow up a planet with a nuke. For any of you Deep Impact fans out there, the reason I'm a bit more harsh on Deep Impact than Armageddon is because Deep Impact tries to portray this comet disaster as a serious situation, one where people deal with real emotions surrounding it. Ironically, the closer to reality you are, the easier it is to poke holes in the story. Deep Impact's logic is like a very clean table. If there's a few blotches here or there, they're gonna be noticeable. Armageddon's logic is like if the table was on fire. All you can really do is just enjoy the pretty flames. Armageddon, not even pretending to be realistic, actually works in its favor. This is clearly operating on a whole different plane of reality. Why do they send oil drillers into space to blow up an asteroid? Because that's the movie, moron. It's like explaining the logic of why these alien robots turn into cars. That nerd locker metaphor wasn't a joke. All of the NASA nerds that aren't this guy are bumbling, unattractive morons.
Good boy solar sale. You'll have a great big canopy.
This is a world where the geeks are wrong and America wins, baby. If this was a realistic situation, and the rock wasn't the size of a planet, then yeah, maybe sending astronauts would have been smart. Ben Affleck would have been right. But he's wrong, because this isn't real life. This is the movie Armageddon, a space adventure film where our gang of perverts and degenerates fly around from quest to quest before defeating the big rock. And I do mean defeat. You see, for some reason, the asteroid is like an actual sentient villain trying to kill our protagonists. This is not a mindless chunk of rock. Donnie's kind of like Monster House, an entity of its own, purposely designed by the film to be the hardest thing imaginable to drill. It's a space rock with a spooky cloud around it. That's a subtle way of saying that this thing is evil. The people who say that you could have just taught astronauts to drill and they would have gotten the job done don't know what they're talking about, because this is an oil driller's worst nightmare. This thing throws everything it can at these drillers, sometimes literally. When the astronauts fail in Deep Impact, it's because the comet's gases are released once they hit sunlight. In Armageddon, the rocks just fucking explode. Why do the rocks explode? The movie makes it very clear that the only person that can defeat this thing is Bruce Willis. Just like the only person that can defeat Frieza is Goku. They're drilling through pure metal with a diamond drill, and still that barely works. Bruce Willis has to push the limit of his psychic oil drilling abilities. It's like a superpower, like Spidey sense, or a stand. Only he and his team have this power, and the feeling in their gut to get the job done. Never speak again how astronauts could have gotten the job done. They clearly couldn't have. Watch the damn movie. The Armageddon War says they couldn't. It's like saying the military could have defeated the kaiju in the Pacific Rim. No, you idiot. Only the giant robots can. And in Armageddon, only drillers can defeat an asteroid. Oh man, this is stupid.
Prefer a GLP-1 pill to lose weight?
So, I never intended to be super skinny. I've always been a big guy. But because I noticed how unhealthy I felt when I was bigger, I just wanted to feel healthy. And then my friend told me about weight loss by Hims.
Hims is now offering the Wegovy pill, an affordable GLP-1 that's FDA approved for weight loss. You can get started for just $39 a month with an active Hims membership. You take an online assessment
Chef Matt coming at you from the Wonder Test Kitchen. Today we're making Jonathan Waxman famous roast chicken. If you know Waxman, you know his chicken. So the pressure was definitely on to get it right. There you have it, folks. Jonathan Waxman roast chicken. Juicy, crispy, and perfect.
So, allegedly, according to Deep Impact screenwriter, a Disney president, though he doesn't say which one, just stole the idea of doing an asteroid movie. Like, they sat down at lunch, and while having a casual conversation about the movie that eventually became Deep Impact, the president was like, hey, that's pretty cool, jotted down a few notes, and then he just stole it. Allegedly. This is how most twin films are made, by the way. Two things here. One, Disney being shady, shocking, I know. Two, wait, Disney made Armageddon? Yeah, they did.
Woman with large breasts. Woman with medium breasts.
Touchstone is a subsidiary of Disney, basically from a time when they tried to release more mature movies that wouldn't fit under the Disney label. You know, until they gave up that idea in the 2000s, let Jerry Bruckheimer go wild. That was my Disney renaissance, in my very educated opinion. What I'm imagining Disney did was look at the idea of Deep Impact and go, yeah, that's cool, I guess, but we gotta spice it up. Realistic melodrama about a comet impact? Boring. Let's explode the fucking Russian space station. That's really what Armageddon is. It's an excuse to have the most unlikely people possible be responsible for the fate of the world. Deep Impact is more like a traditional disaster film, without the schlock. Armageddon stays focused on the main group. These movies are doing two entirely different things. Hey, at least Deep Impact has the better emotional arc between father and daughter. Right?
He left me. She's with her mother. They both got scared. Come. I want to talk to you. I need you.
When it comes to the father-daughter dynamic, Armageddon did it better. Yeah, that's right, I said it. Alright, look. The relationship between Harry and his daughter, Arwen of Rivendell, is all over the place. I'm not denying that. At the start of the movie, she doesn't even call him Dad for some reason.
Hi, Harry.
I have asked you repeatedly to call me Dad.
Sorry, Harry.
And I do mean, for some reason. It's just never specified. They drop her doing this almost immediately. We're introduced to them having a whole spat where she says she's a woman now, and he shouldn't control her. And she says she's gonna quit, and they fight about it. Harry almost kills Ben Affleck with a shotgun. But then once they learn about the asteroid, this whole dynamic is just dropped. The rest of the time he's on Earth, she's like his second in command. Someone he bounces all his thoughts off of. Their dynamic becomes a loving father-daughter relationship. When they leave, she just sits around worrying on Earth. So, like, why even have this whole spat at the beginning? Why even introduce them so antagonistically?
Close! Now! Stop! Alright, we're running moving! It's not fun anymore!
It's because Michael Bay movies best convey exposition through fighting. They had to get all that backstory out somehow. Had to convey that Harry's daughter spent her whole life on the oil rig.
Look, I was raised on Roughneck by you! And now you're gonna stop mistaken when I fall in love with one!
And also is in a relationship with Ben Affleck. After the strange opening, though, I like these two better than these two. Mainly by the fact that Harry's wife is dead from natural causes, and not because he divorced her for a younger woman. Hi, Future Cody here, editing this video. I don't know why I said the wife died in Armageddon. She just left them a long time ago.
Since I reached the age of 10 and became older than you, Harry, since Mom split, why don't you take your pick?
I think I got my wires crossed with Deep Impact. This project's hurting my brain. Speaking of divorce, Ben Affleck. He is certainly Ben Affleck. This relationship subplot sucks so much, dude, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'm being very forgiving towards this film, but you gotta have standards somewhere. I just don't care about these two. They're the worst part of the movie. Like, Bruce Willis actually makes a good point about why she fell in love with him.
Harry, AJ is my choice. My choice and not yours.
He's the only one your age bracket, Grace.
They were the only ones within each other's age range. That's it. Even if they had a great dynamic, which they don't, it'd all be thrown out the window because of that scene. You know the scene. The damn animal cracker scene. My God.
Hey, down.
They Tony Hawk grind railed right on that line. As awkward as the scene already is, the love ballad just makes it so much worse. Mainly because the song is being sung by Steven Tyler of Aerosmith, also known as Liv Tyler's actual dad. Imagine singing a love ballad over a scene of your real-life daughter being intimate with animal crackers. It's kind of odd. Oh boy, that song. The only thing people really remember about this movie. The only Aerosmith song to ever reach #1. So funny story about this song. It's April 2020. I'm getting married. Like, my wedding was set for April 2020. If you remember anything about that time, not great. Everything shut down at the end of March. This was a time before masks. This was a time before any of that. They just told everyone to not go outside at all. In my state, public gatherings were banned. Our big wedding had been reduced to just a few people. Like, even the organist didn't show up. So, at the last minute fix, instead of having the ceremony be played by a piano organ, it was played instead by a YouTube song playlist. Like a phone was connected by aux to the church speakers instead. Played classical music, you know? Overall, went alright. Wife and I got married, good times. But as we were walking away from the altar, going right down the aisle, something happened. The phone that was playing classical music switched randomly to something else. I am not making this up, I swear to God. Somehow, it switched to this fucking song.
Whatnot is an app you download on your smartphone or your tablet where sellers are having live shows 24/7 to bid on all the comics you could ever want. It is pretty amazing. And you know what else is pretty dope? You can search their marketplace for any specific item you're looking for to purchase it from someone's buying app. So if you're looking for comics, manga, or comic art, you need to download Whatnot like right now.
Is how my wedding went down. In the middle of an event that felt like the world was ending. By sheer coincidence, this movie is forever tied to a key event in my life. Against my will. Just like how Transformers 4 is. Why does this keep happening to me? Both movies have something that I like to call the beta asteroid. Basically a test asteroid that hits so the audience understands the stakes. In Deep Impact, the comet splits in two, with the smaller one slamming into the Atlantic, while in Armageddon, a big chunk just hits Paris. Considering this is the climax of the film, I'd say Deep Impact does the scene better. Jenny and her dad, die. New York is obliterated. It has that killer motocross scene. Deep Impact had the worst outcome by far. Every country bordering the Atlantic got hit hard by a massive tsunami. That wave was bigger than the Twin Towers. There is no way Western Europe or Africa survived that. Meanwhile, Armageddon just has Paris get destroyed. Sure is crazy how many of these space rocks keep landing on major cities. They never seem to land in the middle of a forest. I like that for some reason that March survived somehow. While Deep Impact had the better impact, Armageddon had the better sacrifice. I already didn't care too much for the astronauts, and they didn't do much the entire movie other than sacrifice Jon Favreau like this was a game of Kerbal. Harry/Bruce Willis, on the other hand, has like 90% of the screen time in Armageddon. So of course that sacrifice had more impact. It's a pretty good misdirection too, with Ben Affleck thinking he's going to be the one to press the button, but then he gets pushed back inside and will live a good life. I like this final scene. Probably could have gone without the weird flashbacks right before he presses the button, but creative differences. What can I say? While the comet explodes into a bunch of smaller pieces in Deep Impact, Armageddon has the asteroid split directly in half. Perfect two pieces, right outside the atmosphere, like the distance that satellites orbit, but they still narrowly miss the Earth. I love this movie, and so Armageddon ends with an object the size of Texas splitting in half and passing by Earth like this was the end of Phantom Planet. So, I'm gonna be honest, I had an entirely different ending to this video. Originally, I was gonna bring up a third asteroid movie, Greenland. It had nothing to do with this whole twin film thing. It was just a neat asteroid movie that came out in 2020, and nobody saw it. But here's the thing, it's a pretty serious movie. Like, it's just really cynical. The anti-Deep Impact, if you will. In 1998, people were riding that high of American exceptionalism. So in that movie, the government's like this benevolent, kind figure in just a really naive way, honestly. Meanwhile, in Greenland, the government just doesn't tell people an asteroid's gonna hit. They just lie. They tell all the important people, just not you. What a difference 20 years can make to our perception of the federal government. So yeah, I rewrote the ending to this video. Why did I do that? Well, Greenland's just kind of a bummer. It's a good movie, but it's about people killing each other and society collapsing, and that's not really funny. Who wants to end like that? Also, I didn't want to end this video by planting the idea in your head that if we were ever going to get hit by an asteroid, the government might not even tell us. Now that I think about it, I'm kind of just ending this video like that anyway, since I just told you that. Thanks for watching. See you on 2032.
Can I watch ads to double my army? No. Kingshot has no ads. It's all about skill.
Kaijus. Everyone likes kaijus. The robot fights of Pacific Rim, any version of Godzilla, serious or silly. And who doesn't love Gamera? I love Gamera. I talk a lot about giant monsters, how much I love them. But let's be honest, if you were stuck in any of these scenarios, it would be absolutely terrifying. Imagine if you were just going about your day, and suddenly your entire life is uprooted by an incomprehensible beast. No context, no overhead view, you just witness the destruction the only way you can, on the ground. And so you film it. That is Cloverfield. For a time as a kid, Cloverfield was my favorite movie. When it came out, it had such an aura that couldn't be described. Every time I viewed it, I just had a sinking feeling. But there's a mystery to it. From its marketing, to the hidden little details throughout the film, to the concept of just found footage in general. This was my first found footage movie, and it stuck with me like nothing else truly did. To me, it was entirely unique. It still kind of is. As the years went by, of course my opinion on the movie changed. The mystery element sadly faded away. You learn all about the behind the scenes, how it was directed by Matt Reeves and produced by J.J. Abrams, and T.J. Miller went on to be T.J. T.J. Miller. Eventually, you just kind of stop watching it. You move on until you decide to watch it again for a silly YouTube channel. And yeah, after watching this movie again, I still love it, man. I can finally rant about this thing. Let's do it. When looking back at the big found footage movies, like Blair Witch, Paranormal Activity, and of course Cloverfield, they all have one thing in common: underground marketing, word of mouth. These movies only succeeded because it got people talking. Imagine if you were in the theaters in 2007, watching, say, Transformers, and this mysterious trailer begins to play. There isn't even a title, just a date. And so, the speculation began. Here's the thing, I didn't even pick Transformers as a joke. The first Cloverfield trailer premiered on Transformers opening weekend. Truly, this was a golden age of cinema. So what could this new movie be? Everyone had different ideas. The article I read to jog my memory on the whole thing mentioned how people speculated it was a new Godzilla movie. And I gotta say, while reading that, I had a flashback like in Ratatouille. I was one of those people that thought it was Godzilla. Other people had other ideas. In the first trailer, some guy says that it's alive.
God, it's alive, it's huge!
And for some reason, people misheard that. They thought he said, it's a lion.
God, it's alive, it's huge!
For a few months after this trailer released, some people thought that this was a teaser for a Voltron movie, because part of Voltron is a lion. Anyway, the initial mystery took the internet by storm. Maybe it was Godzilla. Maybe it was Voltron. The only thing to go off of was that initial date in the teaser, 1/1808.com. When you went to 1/1808.com, you got these strange pictures. Today, we know that's just T.J. Miller's face, but at the time, man, what could it mean? Spooky. This was the start of an ARG, an augmented reality game created to drip feed information to internet sleuths. A mystery hunt involving various strange websites, this girl's blog, fake MySpace profiles, and even slushies. Oh boy, the slushies. This wasn't the first or last time an ARG hit the internet. Halo did it with ilovebees.com, and Gravity Falls fans spent months trying to find Bill Cipher's corpse. But this one was slightly different. This one told a backstory. Each bit of information was a puzzle piece that fleshed out the Cloverfield world. Then sometimes information that wasn't tied to the ARG at all just took the community by storm. What was this concept art? Was the monster actually a giant whale? So how much of the ARG actually played a part in the movie? Alright, so we're gonna go through this quick just in case anyone hasn't seen the movie in a while. Our video/movie begins with a disclaimer from the US government. The following footage is a part of the Cloverfield case. The video then begins with our main character, Rob Hawkins, filming an intimate moment. Every time I show people this movie, I entirely forget that this is the beginning. So there's like a minute of silence where we're both sitting there, and I just know they're wondering what the hell I'm showing them. This girl, as we learn, is his friend, Beth. They are not dating. This guy is just casually filming a one-night stand. Oddly enough, that becomes a plot point later. The footage skips to a few months later.
Is this thing on? Vic, it's not my camera. I don't know if it's the on button or the zoom button.
The camera is now being borrowed by his brother, Jason.
Jason!
His fiance had an idea for Jason to go around filming all of Rob's friends, have them say little goodbye messages. This whole movie is because this girl had a corny Pinterest idea. Jason doesn't give a shit though, so he pawns the camera onto HUD, telling him to do a very important job, one that HUD will surely do correctly, and then he spends the entire night not doing that.
What's up, man? Hey, what's up, dude? What's up?
Goes around filming friends having personal relationship issues, and then upon learning that his friends slept together, he goes and tells the whole party.
Should have Rob and Beth had sex. No.
I want an alternate version of Cloverfield where the monster just doesn't attack, and the next morning Rob just sees 50 minutes of HUD telling everyone about his sex life. Sadly though, the monster does attack. The whole film is just them trying to survive a kaiju attack. They try to escape. That doesn't work out. Rob gets a distressing call from Beth. He he learns she's trapped, and the group ignores the evacuation to walk to Central Park. It goes about as well as you would imagine. The survivors get on the last chopper out of New York, right as the creatures bombed from the military. Man, if only the chopper flew higher. After witnessing T.J. Miller get gobbled up, Rob and Beth say their last goodbyes as Central Park gets carpet bombed. The final shot is a flashback at Coney Island. Something falls into the ocean. Found footage films were once a novel concept. Then Paranormal Activity came out and spawned a trend that pretty much killed the genre. What we learned afterwards is that there is very much a wrong way to do a found footage film. Every movie in the genre really hinges on two simple questions. One, how did the footage survive? Like as an example, there's this movie called Apollo 18. Lost footage of why we really never went back to the moon. It's so stupid. Anyway, it ends with an alien attacking them and they all explode in space. They blew up next to the moon. How did anyone on Earth get the footage? Number two, why is the cameraman still filming? 90% of these movies can't answer that. Paranormal Activity just gives up by the third movie, even rationalizing it. Cloverfield luckily doesn't have this problem. How did the camera survive? Well, it fell underneath the rubble before the final blast. Why is the cameraman still filming? Because HUD f***ing sucks.
Sorry.
It's kind of a genius creative decision to have your camera guy be a doofus who ignores social cues.
For all we know, it's from another planet and pollution. Superman? Yeah, exactly. Wait, you know Superman is?
Makes things more interesting. We have a camera guy who really shouldn't be filming this, but he is anyway. He thinks it makes him super important.
Yeah, we're gonna want to know how it all went down.
HUD is in this movie a lot.
What's the last thing you see? That means I died.
Despite that aspect of the movie really aging terribly, it's still my favorite found footage film. And it's not just because it's a kaiju movie and I'm a sucker for that. It's because of how complex this movie really is when you look under the hood. Like, just think about how many pieces had to come together to pull this off. Found footage is a low-budget genre. The Blair Witch Project just had their actors film in the middle of the woods. Paranormal Activity was in a suburban house. Half the movie was people sleeping. Visually, there isn't a lot going on, except for in Cloverfield, and I guess Chronicle, but this is about Cloverfield. This movie's kind of deceptive. Each shot seems random, but it's all deliberate to build up the scene. As a certain decrepit old man once said, you might not have noticed it, but your brain did. Like, take the bridge scene, for instance. Rob gets a call. The camera pans to his brother, getting pushed away. Pan back to Rob. The chopper shows up, and its light blinds the camera. Everyone looks at the bottom level of the bridge. Why are people running away? Who knows? The chopper is now shining a light on the crowd. The camera zooms in on Jason, who stands on a statue to get a vantage point. The chopper is now shining a light on him, and whatever everyone is reacting to off screen. We get a hint that it's something above him, though, considering there is now water dripping on his head. The camera finally zooms out to reveal that it's the monster's tail. It's a little exhausting for me to break it down like that, but the whole movie's like that. Deliberately shot to seem not deliberate. So much thought given into every little action and pan of the camera. Because this is information the audience still needs to know to get the scene. Just like in any other movie, there is still build-up, tension, and payoff. It's just done in a single cut with a first-person view. I could easily imagine the same scene playing out in a conventional kaiju movie. The impact, though, just wouldn't be the same. What's kind of funny is that even though the movie did so much to lead the audience along, audiences back in 2007 weren't really ready for it. It turns out that the shaky camera led to a lot of sick people. That's fine. Weed out the weak. They never could have survived hardcore Henry. As a kid, all this adult stuff kind of went over my head. But now that I'm older, I kind of realized that this was like a CW romance drama that literally got stomped on. I think the weirdest thing about watching this movie now, man, I don't know how else to say it, it feels old, but that can't be right. I saw this in theaters. How can this be old? But everyone's on Blackberries or flip phones, and just this guy's hair dates it the most. The technology of the time is inseparable from the movie itself, which influences how the entire movie is cut together. It's disjointed and out of place, cutting at random and imperfect times because HUD kept pressing the record button on and off.
I'm ready to test them up, man.
Stop, man! Hey, guys. Hey.
This movie could only have existed in 2008, a time before everyone ended up having a camera in their pocket, especially when physical tape itself was phased out. Throughout the movie, HUD keeps accidentally switching back to the original recording on the tape, which was Robin That's Nice Day Out, a happier time, now accidentally wiped away and taped over, all to film for a going away party. And then the tape is used for another purpose, filming the monster attack that ultimately kills everyone. Rob leaving and the monster attacking literally wipes out this nice memory they had. But it's ironically what brought them back together. Their relationship still oddly lives on as a classified file owned by the American government. Everyone has their own idea of what the most 2000s film is. The most of its era, for good and bad. And for me, I would say Cloverfield's up there. Not really because it's the most dated or of its time, but for another reason. Alright, time to talk about 9/11. I said this in a previous video, but I'll reiterate it again. Lindsay Ellis once made a point to describe Independence Day and War of the Worlds as distinctly pre- and post-9/11. I'm gonna take that metaphor and apply it to American kaiju movies. Yeah, same metaphor for Godzilla 1998 and Cloverfield. One is peak late 90s Americana, also directed by Roland Emmerich, about a monster rampaging through New York City, and it doesn't even knock down a building. And then there's Cloverfield. I don't think you needed me to tell you this, but so much of this movie is directly influenced by 9/11 footage. Its visual language is certainly the most 9/11-esque of any major film ever made. Matt Reeves has gone on to say the movie is a metaphor for 9/11, like how the first Godzilla was a metaphor for Hiroshima. And yeah, you can tell, it's as subtle as a brick to the face. That said, of all the major American films meant to contextualize 9/11, this one's probably the best. And it's really because the rest are just so fucking terrible. It's just one of those events that don't work out when you try to put it on screen. Ever. Like everyone saw it on TV the first time.
Weller, look who's here! Mr. Peanut! Mr. Peanut! Mr. Peanut is here!
Is he salt-free and dry roasted?
Look at that silly guy. He's just a baby. You didn't mean for this to happen. Yeah, if you didn't know, Clover was confirmed to be a baby. Neville Page and Matt Reeves said they wanted it to be like a newborn deer. This is like the worst version of Bambi ever. At first, nothing Clover is doing is intentional. The oil tanker sinking at the beginning was probably just because Clover wandered into the Hudson, and then it exploded. This thing really is just a big baby, which is kind of terrifying then, because it implies that there's a mom out there. Where is the mom? How big is the mom? There isn't even a real name for this thing. Everyone just calls it Clover. Clover's a little different compared to other kaiju. Godzilla, when he's taking on a villain role, is just downright malicious. The Pacific Rim kaiju are literally biological weapons. For a lot of kaiju, there is some intentionality to their actions, but not really with Clover, at first. Except, I guess, when it rips off the Statue of Liberty's head and throws it. But hey, that's just because Matt Reeves likes Escape from New York. For the most part, this thing acts like a baby deer. A giant, fish-like monster deer. Yeah, this thing does look pretty wacky, doesn't it? It's kind of a shame that this design is only used in a movie that briefly lets you see the monster. It's only once you pause the movie or just look at a model online where the true freakiness of Clover really comes out. Look at that thing. So first off, its body shape in general, something I'd describe as spore creature. Clover's four-legged, but its body is vertical. So those main front arms, or whatever you call them, are like twice the size of its hind legs. It's such a strange body plan. I love monsters that have that body plan. It's why Behemoth is the best MonsterVerse kaiju. I never noticed before just how big Clover's front paws are, or at least I think they're paws. Hands? Either way, they look goofy. And then it's got these little arms on its torso. At least I thought they were arms. Apparently, they're not. They're actually external esophagi, outer intestines, with teeth. In the limited manga tie-in Cloverfield kitchen, they're literally tubes that suck people up. But hey, how can you be scared of that face? He's kind of cute. A big, angry fish with weird air sac things and a large underbite. I've always thought about living in this world and what the aftermath would be like. It'd be kind of horrifying, right? Like, imagine waking up and then this is on the news. Where did it come from? What's its origin? Well, people in universe probably would never know. At least we knew. Anybody who read the Cloverfield wiki or watched those Cloverfield lore videos on YouTube, all of those came from the same source, the ARG. You see, J.J. Abrams really liked to incorporate hidden meanings surrounding anything he worked with, and he was very vocal about the ARG, that exploring deeper into it would unveil more information that the movie didn't. There was no need to explain to the audience what this monster was. You could just go online and find out yourself. It was a story all of its own. So what actually was the lore of Cloverfield? What was this backstory the ARG unveiled? It all led back to one name, Slusho. Okay, stick with me. So, every blog from this girl, every bit of information collected, every MySpace post from fake people told a lore backstory on where the monster actually came from. And it all revolved around Slusho. Or more importantly, Slusho's parent company, Tagarado. There's a Japanese government satellite named Chimpanzee 3 that broke apart and fell into the Atlantic Ocean. You can see it falling at the end of the movie. While scanning the Atlantic Ocean trying to find the downed satellite, Tagarado discovered something called seabed's nectar, a mysterious resource that comes from the bottom of the ocean. And they decided to use this mysterious resource as their secret ingredient for their slushies. So Tagarado decided to create a rig and begin drilling. So that raises the question, what the hell is seabed's nectar? Is it kaiju goo? Is it something kaijus like? Who's to say? And it was while drilling for seabed's nectar where they accidentally woke something up. Like the dwarves in Moria, Tagarado dug too deep. In December 2007, Clover awoke, got pissed, and destroyed the rig.
The Atlantic Ocean suddenly sinking under violent and unexplained circumstances.
Then it started making its way to New York City and finally reached landfall on May 22nd, 2008. Easy, to the point, it makes sense. Clover looks like a big old fish. Of course it came from the ocean. The lore was settled, YouTube videos were made, and everyone moved on. Then 15 years later, Matt Reeves says the monster's actually an alien. In an interview with Sci-Fi, Matt Reeves discussed working on the first Cloverfield. There was this exchange, which I'm gonna read verbatim. In terms of its species, was it of this planet, or is it an alien? It's alien. In fact, at the end of the movie, you can see the moment when it comes to Earth. It's another one of those little Easter egg moments. But when we revisit the footage where they're on the Ferris wheel at the end, you see the meteor flying down and hitting the ocean. That's actually the beginning of the baby beam on Earth. This was a nuke to all the ARG enjoyers out there. Truly, there were no survivors. Many simply ignored his comments. He wasn't involved in the deep lore. He just forgot what they included in the ARG. It's been 2 decades, he's just being stupid. Matt Reeves, the director, and Drew Goddard, the writer, pretty much disregarded the only canon this movie ever knew. Because if the monster's every forum post, every Tagarado cover-up, the station collapse, the very monster's origin would just not have happened. None of this would be canon. I love the ARG lore, so I just didn't pay this much mind. And then I started making this video. I got curious, started digging deeper. I shouldn't have done that. Over the last 15 years, this movie's previously established lore has unraveled, all thanks to each interview by the people that actually made the damn thing. Let's start off simple. In an interview, J.J. Abrams was asked what the ultimate fate of the monster was, and he answered, yes, he's dead. Ultimately, the bombs killed him. At the end of the original movie's credits, there is a final audio message. It says, help us. Here's the thing. If you play this message backwards, it says the words, it's still alive. So what the fuck do we do? By the interview of JJ, monster is dead. But by the canon of the actual movie, the monster's actually alive. Why did JJ say it was dead? Well, it's probably because he didn't know that Matt Reeves snuck it in. The major creative heads on this movie can't even agree if the creature died. I can't blame JJ for missing this little Easter egg in his own movie. He's just a producer, and he didn't have eyes on every creative decision, especially one just... as some, even knowing about the backwards message, say that JJ just confirmed it was dead anyway, so it's dead. The question now is, what do we consider canon? A clue left within the actual film itself, or an interview after the fact by just one of the creatives involved? JJ started slapping the Cloverfield name on the movies that were gonna just bomb at the box office. It was kind of a weird idea, but it could work, you know? And then Cloverfield Paradox came out. Not only is it pretty terrible, but the space horror film ends with this. Yeah, a series that was getting away from the kaiju monster and making its own name ended up right back where it started, tied to the first movie. All because JJ couldn't help but jingle some keys in front of the audience. This monster, though, is really big. It's up to the clouds. If Clover is a baby, then that's probably its mom. At least I thought it was. Until JJ opened his mouth. It's the same creature. The satellite is really just a hint for people to explore the lore themselves, but we get the audience. And this has been my headcanon since 2008. And then there is the alien ending that Matt Reeves and Drew Goddard apparently intended.
Approximately 7 hours ago, something has happened.
The movie ends with Rob and Beth holding each other as the bombs fall down. The camera jumps to their last truly enjoyable moment together, and in that moment, Rob is oblivious that something just fell into the ocean. The object is Clover, still as an egg, falling right off the shore of Coney Island, an island directly next to the Hudson River. The egg will hatch, the alien will grow fast, and wander up the river. And as its first snack, trying to eat the Statue of Liberty. Why it's here, we don't know. But in this final scene, we do get one question answered: where it came from. The payoff of all these flashbacks truly coming to a head, showing that this camera was the first one to spot the monster. There's also that dark irony. Not only is it showing this lost relationship, but also showing the arrival of the monster that ultimately destroys them. The movie now has far less background information, but you also need less info. This is a more self-contained movie. To me, this just raises more questions. Why did it happen to land right outside New York City? Why did it try to eat the Statue of Liberty? Now, actually think about this. Other than being a reference to Escape from New York, why in universe did Clover try to eat the Statue of Liberty? Why did it assume it was food? Clover has never seen a human before. The statue doesn't smell like anything alive. For all I would know, this is just a big building. The only thing the Statue of Liberty did was be shaped like a human.
In general, we don't know overcraft you, but we are possible. This is the terrifying creature the characters have no and now choose to accept this idea. That's the audience. The only information is that this creature came from space. It's in pain, and it's still so the video got away from me. I went into this just figuring that it's going to explain the film and ARG. That's it. And the more elements, the more everything got around. Now I couldn't even find evidence of J.J. Abrams saying this was Chipman's 3. The wiki says he said it, but I couldn't find a single source. No interview, no anything. I could cut it in the video because maybe I was missing something. Maybe there was some stone left unturned. That never happened. From what I can see, I don't think J.J. ever said this was a satellite. All he ever said was they had two theories. It seemed like the wiki just made it up. Headcanon is an interesting thing. Star Wars. Disney bought Star Wars. Decided every book, comic before and after the original saga just wasn't canon. They were now calling it Legends. Pretty much just a different timeline for real canon. No more use on Von Lord. No more Thrawn until they brought him back. No Chewie getting crushed by him. Best. All this is just fiction at the end of the day. When you feel a real reaction on a story or event you like is deemed not real within the canon of that fiction. It all go away thanks to the whims of whoever legally owns it. My point is, that same thing happened to this ARG. The creator wiped away the pre-established world by saying Clover was an alien the whole time. It just meant none of this was real. It didn't contribute to the Cloverfield movie. It didn't matter. People felt angry. Here's the thing though, it's fiction. Whether it's real or not, it's up to you. The ARG, despite its flaws, told a story. And it's now a story that some are attached to. I've gotten more enjoyment from something that technically isn't even canon according to the people who made it, or from the actual film. Just because they weren't the most well-crafted backstories and the dates don't really line up, it doesn't mean they need to go to waste. The problem is though, after this whole video, we're kind of in a conundrum. So I propose this. Just like what happened with Star Wars, I propose two ways of looking at Cloverfield. The Matt Reeves way, and the ARG way. If you like the idea that Clover's an alien, go with Matt Reeves. As for me, I'm sticking with the ARG. Yeah, that's right. Even after dissecting it to death, ARG and what it did is the main reason the movie stuck with me for so long. Really think I'm gonna change my mind just because Matt Reeves says so? Of course not. And I can't imagine many of you will either. Yeah, Clover being an alien is a neat idea, and it makes the film mysterious again. The ARG had this covered before, and it said this entire disaster was just because a Japanese company wanted to control for Soji. So, for this 40-minute video, I guess what I'm getting at here is that it's damn it. What was the first superhero we ever saw? Was it Blade, X-Men, Daredevil? Maybe it was the Avengers, or Man of Steel? I don't know. Was it amazing? This year. I'm so tired, but when I'm out of here, it's just you and Well, my first superhero movie was, I saw it before Spider-Man, Batman, or even Ghost Rider. You see, my first superhero movie was 2005's Fantastic Four. One way to start. I didn't know anything about comics. Only comics I read were Garfield, Calvin and Hobbes. Only superhero anything I ever read was that issue where Superman literally died. My parents owned a copy for some reason. I never saw anything Fantastic Four related. I never watched the 90s cartoon or played the PS1 game. I don't care. Rain just took all of this in. I didn't know it wasn't like the source material. To me, this wasn't the source material. It had everything. Action, comedy, implied nudity, and product placement. It stood for everything that made pre-recession 2000 America a magical place. I'm getting wrong for making money. He's already alive. Then, as I got older, I saw other movies, and that opinion kind of changed. Soon I started talking to other people about these movies. My opinion changed even more. I went online and saw all these bad reviews. Oh my god, people hate this. And you know what? I think I hate this too. From then on, that's how it was for me. The Fox-era Fantastic Four movies were terrible. Everyone knew they were terrible. It was just common knowledge. No, of course the Doctor didn't want to be a CEO. He's a wizard king of Spooky Castle. You idiot. Since Marvel was trying to get to number 3, I thought, hey, what better time to revisit these movies? Because the cycle of nostalgia is never real. Perhaps it's as good as people on Twitter now claim within live context club. So which is it? It's 2005 Fantastic Four an abomination? Is it just misunderstood for its time? Perhaps the words which is the voice of the model gets back body and can say it's true. Start by grabbing an API key from Management, drop it into a .env file so it's repeatable and runtime key and key and code. Then install the TypeScript SDK in the .env. The SDK makes the API call .env lets you key and node it's a returned MV case. Now read the code. You pull 11 labs from the SDK and extension. It picks up the API keys from your environment, so every request is authenticated. The request itself is the virtual. TypeScript, voice IDs and first level. You can start using it. Inside the options element, tags is what you insert. Auto ID checks for speech and this makes it free. And output form asks for a standard MV for response. One file, collect the returned audio chunks and write them to an MV file. One request gets you a new audio asset you can inspect, upload, and play it. That's the whole good stuff. Treat the SDK client, call convert with your text and voice model. It's charming. Okay? I'm not gonna drag this out. It's not spectacular or anything. It's not gonna win any awards, but this can't be the version of Fantastic Four, man. You can't make it. I'm still gonna make fun of it, of course. Like a human. So, the Fantastic Four have been hard to adapt. Not a stunning revelation, I know. But why? What was it about these four that just didn't translate well? There's a few things for a few reasons. Like so many videos have pointed out before, they're adventurers. They go on wacky sci-fi adventures and fight more people. They aren't great characters because they have powers. They're great characters that happen to have powers. And that is really, really hard to get right. It's a subtle thing. And for decades, Hollywood couldn't even get the easy superheroes right, except for Superman. At one time, before the 90s, Marvel didn't even have that. They had Howard the Duck. Back then, Marvel was selling the rights to their characters for dirt cheap. Or, well, they were trying, because nobody was buying. Finally, Marvel was able to pawn off the Fantastic Four to the Nightmare, future producer and writer of Doubtfire, who would sit on the rights for a few years until pumping out the cheapest adaptation possible at the last possible second. Despite being made with the budget of an old Smosh video and never being released to the public for 3 decades now, this is the most accurate Fantastic Four movie ever to exist. It might not look the best visually, but hey, it's good stuff. Now, after some really dubious shenanigans, the rights eventually landed with 20th Century Fox, wanting to make their own movie ASAP. This was in 1994. The movie didn't release until 2005. This was the scene. So sorry. Idea because Spider-Man succeeded. It is actually the end product of a decade of behind-the-scenes dilly-dally. Fox originally planned on having Chris Columbus write and direct. So, for years, Harry Potter movies were to Pixels, but he dropped out. A new director came in, then they dropped out. New writers came in, but Fox just wasn't happy with their direction. And around, they all went on the circus carousel for 10 entire years. Some drafts were 3-hour-long epics, others were 1960 throwbacks, and just Fox wasn't interested in any of that. They wanted a more contemporary vision, a more radical, modern, Fantastic Four. Keep in mind, this was the late 90s. This is when the biscuits were lit, when the Goofy movies were extremely goofy. The Fantastic Four, old-fashioned, to the past. We're about to have a millennium, baby. It's changed with the times. And after a couple more years, they finally figured that out. And so we got a Fantastic Four where the paparazzi were floating everywhere. Johnny Storm was really into motocross. Holy shit, I just love motocross. You know what I think of when it comes to 2005 Fantastic Four? It isn't the plot or the characters. Hell, it isn't even the clobbering. No, what I first imagine is an Xbox. Like the original Xbox. This was for me the most mid-2000s movie that ever existed. When I imagine 2005, I will not lie, Johnny Storm crashing into that Burger King ad shows up more often than not. My 2005 memories go like my house in the middle of the field, Pokemon Emerald, King Kong being everywhere, and then Johnny Storm saying "Flame on." Congratulations, Burger King, you won marketing. Fantastic Four has on franchise. I can't even recall my childhood memories anymore. I only remember the one. Fantastic Four is probably the most bright of the 2000s superhero movies. It's mainly comedic, whimsical, even kind of like a big cartoon, but not like that one. Like when the fire truck is about to hit Ben, the fire dog covers his eyes. That's incredible. I dare not recall the movie so long. There's just this innocence to the whole movie that can also be interpreted as brain dead. Is it brain dead? Yeah, but so is the rest of 2005. Striker, dude, you seriously got to stay away from the video game award session. Ultimate Gamer X, don't you know? Switching everybody's ass the games. Usually Striker's because we really have the two fires competing throughout the entire movie, where the energy of the time seeps through a pretty standard family-friendly comic book atmosphere. TV and paparazzi are a dominant force. They're almost a villain in themselves that not even the great Reed Richards can understand. The press basically drives Victor Von Doom insane. They are so crazy that in the next movie, Sue wants to just give up the whole superhero thing to escape these people. Being celebrities is a core trait to the Fantastic Four. So I kind of love how these characters and the time period sort of just fit together when it comes to that. When I really think about Fantastic Four, though, I don't just think of the tone. I think of what sets the tone. And nothing sets the tone better than music. I love the Fantastic Four theme, okay? It's truly a shame that this theme will relegate it to the dustbin of history. It's a theme so good, I cannot ever imagine another theme being associated with the Fantastic Four. And then, you know, the new one came out, and this is an origin movie. So you're going to spend an hour and a half watching the Fantastic Four become the Fantastic Four. And is dedicated to what the intro of the cartoon covered in a minute. People go into space, get hit with cosmic rays, get superpowers. There you go. Ben's super strong now. He holds back a fire truck. Wow. I'm sure that makes up for wishing for the sweet embrace of death. Sue can turn invisible, but only when she takes her clothes off. She can make force fields that give her a nosebleed like an anime character. Every time she uses her powers, she takes damage like Pichu in Smash Bros. Johnny bursts into flames when doing extreme sports or being horny. Reed makes the audience uncomfortable. This unlikely team has got to learn to work together and save the world. Maybe they might just learn that the greatest superpower is family. Coming soon to fucking Peacock. If you watched literally any video essay about these guys, this isn't going to be a shock at all. But the origins of the Fantastic Four don't matter. There is no Uncle Ben getting shot here, or parents getting shot, or getting jacked off at super speed. Even the first issue of their comics skim over their backstory, because we need to get to the real meat of the adventure, which is fighting the Mole Man. Fantastic Four is about the fun, wacky sci-fi adventures this team goes on. So, of course, the movie has all of them split apart for most of the runtime. Splitting up a core cast of characters, does this film think it is? Scooby-Doo 2002? I don't think so. I don't see Scrappy pissing on Daphne anywhere. They made Dr. Doom a CEO. Man, that's hilarious. The combination in comic book movies is adapting the, unhinged elements of these things. Like, audiences were still new to everything in the 2000s. Goblin had to look like a Power Ranger instead of a wacky green ghoul. These movies were made to be palatable for someone born in 1972. So, I get it. I get why they were apprehensive about having the villain of these New York celebrities be some metal wizard in his spooky East Europe castle. How much runtime is needed to explain he's both a genius in tech and in magic? Yes, magic is real, and also this guy makes robot duplicates of himself. Probably would have killed Grandma. Dr. Doom is the definitive comic book character. He's a bit much, a bit theatrical. But there's a reason he's so beloved. He's got a tragically dark backstory, which adds layers to his motivations. He's capable, intelligent, and the perfect villain to the fore. Yet it also takes so much time to set that up properly. What the fuck is Latveria? Why does this guy hate Reed? Why does he wear a mask? And they just didn't have the runtime for that. They needed to waste time showing how they got blasted by the sun. I can just imagine that in the writers' minds, quarters had to be cut. This was a Fantastic Four movie after all, not a Doom movie. So what were they to do? Shit, just make it on board. Oh, okay. Dr. Doom in this is the Green Goblin, just without Willem Dafoe, the Manic Goblin energy. Well, anything good about that character at all. Doom is now an evil genius businessman that can shoot lightning. That's not Dr. Doom. This is an entirely made-up character exclusively for this movie. He just happens to wear the Doom mask at the end. This is gonna be fun. He's not even that smart. The movie implies he's smart because he built his company Steve Jobs style, but we never see that. All he does is sit around in his office looking mad, even when there's opportunities to show that he's smart. They just don't. How do you think the great Victor Von Doom found out he was affected by cosmic rays? Did he do any wacky experiments on himself? Did he self-diagnose the problem by connecting the dots? No, Steven just goes to a normal doctor, like a family physician. Dr. Doom went to the doctor. Then he kills him. Because he angry. It's hilarious because other than turning metal, this guy really has no motivation to become super bad. Like he was a jerk before, but not evil. The movie actually actually forces this man to become evil. Fastest free falls into depression. Yeah, this is stuck away. Mess around. We would have to Victor. Alright, so for some reason, this Cosmic Ray incident on the station is the biggest PR nightmare you could ever imagine. It is taking the stock of his company. He is dealing with scandal and debt, all because of this thing. And the only people affected by this were Doom and 4 other people he personally knew. People who volunteered, who didn't even die. So how is any of this a big deal at all? Real companies have people die, and it barely hurts their stock price. Yet in this world, Doom Corp is going full Lehman Brothers, and the board is blaming Victor himself. The vaccine agreement. Thanks, last enough already. I'm all for Amazon and Jeff Bezos being held accountable as much as the next guy, but it gets to a point where in-universe, the pressure doesn't even make any sense. The only people affected by this became famous superheroes. People love them now. The only people who care about the consequences of this disaster are financial magazines. There is no way it would affect the company this much. In the real world, it would have just walked away from this absolutely fine. You know, except for the whole turning into metal thing. But the hand of the damn writers just had to make him turn evil because we need another goblin. Do you know how much money I've invested in this company? You know how much I've sacrificed? Really do get the most violent deaths in these movies. Victor Von Doom has nothing left to lose. He just starts killing people left and right because he's metal now. Yeah, that was a pun. Fuck you. Speaking of metal, Doom's mask. It's an iconic part of his character, since they weren't bold enough to just have a masked guy barge in unannounced and start spitting insults to Stretchy McGee. I guess showing his origin was the next best option. We are now forced to answer the question, why does Doom wear a mask? My personal headcanon is just that Robot Chicken sketch. Sorry about your dick, Goog. I find the answer to this so funny. Where does his mask come from? Oh, it was an ornament in his office. Some decoration. A gift by the people of Latveria for humanitarian contributions. First off, that thing is possessed by demons. Second, I think this makes this the equivalent of welding a Nobel Peace Prize to your face. I'm very conflicted here because I like Julian McMahon as Dr. Doom. Rest in peace, by the way. I think that once he puts on the mask, he becomes a lovable little scamp. His personality flips. He drops the whole cold and calculating angle. It goes right for the quips. That's what I'm talking about. Everyone today complains that modern Marvel movies just don't take themselves seriously because there's always some bad joke or quip. And you know, I agree. I think we need to go back to a simpler time when these things were straight up cartoons. As an example, the Thing hits Doom right into a bus. Then he casually walks out the front door. That is incredible. Doom is just spooky Electro. He doesn't use any wiggy gadgets, no Doom bots, no Doom hickeys. All he's got is some lightning powers and a fucking rocket launcher. Yes, how could I forget Doom's best asset, his Javelin missile? Hot take here, the mid-2000s comic movie didn't know how to adapt Dr. Doom. Susan, it's fight. One of the biggest problems people have with this movie is Dr. Doom. And I get it, you don't want the character done wrong. Yet in retrospect, like, come on, you are expecting too much of this movie. This is not an excuse. I am not saying this is a good decision, or saying you need to like this. What I am saying is that we were just never going to get a proper Dr. Doom in this movie. It was beyond this film's capability, like telling a toddler to land the plane. Doom has so many things going on that even to this day, Hollywood still has difficulty adapting him. Does this mean that Doctor Doom is unadaptable? No, of course not. If you took the time, you could make this character. The problem here, though, is that once again, time is not on Marvel's side. So we're slapping Robert Downey Jr.'s face right on Doom because Marvel doesn't know how else to sell this character to the general public. However, instead of laughing at Stadium, it's like looking away from cars. Those sparkle, try to keep it safe and system. Yes, now, perhaps Downey isn't playing Doom, and this whole thing is just one big fake out to explain why he's back on set. Or just programming. My point here is that even after 20 years of building up the MCU, Marvel still doesn't have the balls to have a proper Doctor Doom. You know, this movie has a lot of problems, but I'm not going to harp on it too much for not doing a proper Doctor Doom. Give him electrical powers, sure, whatever. Have a Latveria Easter egg for the two nerds that knew what the hell that was in 2005. Ship them off at the end, Madagascar style. Spoilers, Rise of the Silver Surfer is a better movie. Anytime I see people go, this is the best Fantastic Four we got, one, it's a low bar, and two, it's usually because they're thinking of the sequel, the one where things actually happen. The Fantastic Four is a team of adventurers. It's nice when they do the adventures. It is not nice when they spend most of the runtime locked inside a New York apartment trying to cure themselves and being interesting. We all know how this is going to end. They're going to accept their powers. I would be shocked if the Fantastic Four movie ended with them unfantasticing themselves. Maybe I'm being too harsh, though. That was not really the main point here. The main point of these four being framed together is so they can learn to get along, and soon become a family. Too bad it's poorly executed. Strangers learning to become friends isn't exactly a groundbreaking concept, but typically when it's done in other movies, usually the characters actually interact with one another. In that first movie, these four really don't. Not that much. Like, even in Quarantine, they had to actually reshoot scenes, because while editing, Fox realized, oh shit, these people don't talk to each other at all. And when they do speak, they're usually fighting. That's why Ben and Johnny here are bickering is what Ben and Johnny do. It doesn't work as well when Sue and Reed are being this aggressive and awkward. Stretching powers are so hard to pull off in live action. It is an ability that thrives in cartoons and comics. But imagine a real man doing this. If you saw someone right in front of you doing half the shit he did, could your brain even process that as real? It's something that no matter how much budget goes into the effect, it's always going to look a little wonky. So that is not how the body is supposed to move. Considering how old this movie is, I will say, the stretching powers could have looked a whole lot worse. Director Tim's story at least knew the limitations of the effect and how to frame around it. Helps with the uncanniness. Yet here's the thing, being stretchy is just a small part of Reed Richards. Reed isn't a good character because he can stretch any part of his body. Tons of characters stretch. Plastic Man, Miss Marvel, Luffy, and Jake the Dog. But there's only one Mr. Fantastic. And that's because what makes Reed Mr. Fantastic is his brain. He's the smartest guy in the world. Generally speaking, he's smarter than Tony Stark. He can invent anything, do anything, travel across universes, create a council of himself. From Rick and Morty, Reed Richards is one of the most fascinating characters in all of comics. And while this movie is for the most part perfectly acceptable and pretty average, its absolute greatest sin is that it completely dodges everything. But this Dr. Doom got to be a goofball, so that was kind of funny. Here, Reed Richards, our main character, is just so lame. Reed is smart. Therefore, Reed is a nerd. That's his core trait. Socially inept, awkward. He's like Jimmy Neutron saying sodium chloride instead of salt. You know what fucking sodium chloride is, Jimmy? Say salt like a human being with a soul. You godless piece of shit. We're almost tired of movie where he just says things, all to remind people that he is the smartest guy in the room. So, every it's that cliche where his genius is just on such another level. He can't even properly communicate with normal people.
It's you and me. We're variables, but it's actually still the same world.
And hey, honestly, that wouldn't even be a problem if he wasn't such a dumbass. The smart character is only as intelligent as its writer, after all, and this is the dumbest fucking movie. So really, this whole time, we, the audience, are just watching Reed Richards, the genius, constantly failing. He miscalculates when the cosmic storm will hit the station. He thinks the shield will protect everyone. They don't. When trying to fix Ben, he tests the machine on himself, turning himself into, that. He doesn't even make the fancy costumes that react to their powers. He just reuses the ones they wore in space. The only smart thing Reed does in the whole movie is conclude that molten steel will harden if it gets wet. What an absolute genius. First prize in the third grade science fair for that one. Everything Reed does is just inherently funny. Like, unintentionally. It's even funny how they go to space. So Reed Richards has to pitch his idea to Victor Von Doom. And while Reed is doing so, it's all awkward because he runs into his ex, Sue Storm, who is working for Doom. And she's still in love with Reed, but he doesn't realize it because he's just an absolute nerd. Big Bang Theory is Speech engine provides transcription and dedicated models for natural turn-taking, voice detection, and interruption. For all secure enterprise-grade compliance, speech engine is available now. Add voice to agent today. Yeah, Sue Storm. In one of the early comics, there's this one issue where the team opens real-life fan mail, and one of the letters just says something along the lines of, "What's the point of Sue? What does Sue contribute to the team?" And the funniest thing is, they, the writers, didn't know there was once a time when Sue's only power was being invisible. That was it. Like the ever-elusive pet in a locker, her greatest power was not being seen. Over the years, Marvel solved this problem with Sue by just buffing the shit out of her. Invisibility by itself is nothing. But if you include that force fields, now we're talking. With force fields, Sue went from doing nothing to being able to block any attack. Hell, the sky's the limit if you're creative enough. She can do anything with these things. Use them as a platform to fly, keep a building from collapsing, create a small bubble inside Dr. Doom to make his head explode. If you ever played Marvel Rivals, then you gotta get an idea of what Sue can do. And just like in Marvel Rivals, this movie too took Sue Storm and nerfed her. Force field really do a lot. They can't even knock Dr. Doom off his feet. Anytime she tries to do anything remotely powerful, her Doom's needs also being ignored. It's understandable for the game's first outing. Sue Storm is now just the sitcom mom. Responsible. Don't complain that Johnny's irresponsible. Reed's annoying. And that's all she's mainly given. I mean, she's not wrong. Johnny is irresponsible. Reed is annoying. But she's given the cursed role of the female phone killer. Sue just exists to judge. She does like Ben, though, but that's not saying much. Everyone loves Ben. She also likes Victor Von Doom. Wait, what? Yeah, so at the start of the movie, Sue is with Victor. To what capacity? I don't really know.
People are trying to send me Victor.
It is heavily implied that Victor is digging like he proposes to her in the space station, but he never gets his answer because the cosmic bomb settles. The rest of the movie goes by, Victor becomes Metal Electra, and you, the audience, just kind of assume that he and Sue truly broke up because of everything. You assume that, right? Yet at the end, she tells me that her and Victor were just never a thing.
Victor. Together, this no me, Victor. Never was.
What the fuck? Why did he propose? Why did he expect her to come to dinner? It seems like he thought they were dating. Rather thought they were dating. Thought they were dating. She even acts uncomfortable when Victor fucking sort of looking at reads on scrapbook like her current BF would see her playing for an ex. You're like, no, they don't have a relationship. I guess. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe she wasn't even thinking about Reed here. Maybe she was just happy at the increase in hate crimes. So while I was editing, I was listening to the audio commentary, right? And on the official Blu-ray version, when it got to this part, they mentioned how there was originally a planetarium scene that they cut out. Apparently, it repeated information, and they wanted to save time. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, here's the funny thing. There are two versions of this movie online. There is the Blu-ray Disney Plus version that has Sue saying she was never with Doom. And then there's the Amazon version, which has the deleted planetarium scene. The planetarium scene is just fun. In every way. One, you can actually see Sue and Reed becoming a couple again. It's really cute. It actually helped with Reed's arc where he learns to be assertive. In the official movie, Sue just tells him to be a man, and he just becomes a man. On the planetarium scene, she does it in a tongue-in-cheek way. So it's like Reed's doing it for himself, not just because she told him to. Most importantly, though, it cuts out Sue saying she was never a thing with Doom. Though the new scene does have Mr. Fantastic doing the chat face, so I guess it balances out. Future Cooey here. You know, rewatching the clip where she says there is no her and Victor. Never was. I guess you could just interpret that as her saying she never really liked Victor. And it was kind of like a rebound until Reed came back.
Together, this no me, Victor. Never was.
Really, that whole rant was kind of unnecessary. My lack of social comprehension has once again wasted so much time. In the comics, Johnny Storm is Sue's immature younger brother. He's a little reckless. He always tries to do the right thing, even if his emotions get the best of him. In the movie, Johnny's an asshole, and I love it. When you think of these movies, Chris Evans' Human Torch is probably what pops into your mind. Johnny is a dick. He knows he's hot, and that was before he even got powers.
You're hot. I'll take you, Shorty.
Johnny bangs chicks, and he makes Ben's life a living hell.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Being basically from a complete AI creation platform. Destroy what you want. And watch it take shape. You can plan, customize, expand any direction. Tools built for one, to platforms ready for many. From passion projects to enterprise-grade systems, everything is built in and ready to launch. It's a new creation where you can always follow its imagination takes. Can you imagine it? Let's make your dream a reality right now.
Johnny's into snowboarding and motocross, all the extreme sports that 2008 destroyed. He found out he had powers while snowboarding down a mountain after jumping off a helicopter. Then after he crashes, he bangs. It brings a tear to my eye. They don't make him like they used to. Early scripts had Johnny be this complex character that would start off self-centered and vapid before making the ultimate sacrifice to save the world. They're gonna have a fake out death and everything. The whole cliche caboodle. He would have been the emotional core to the movie's climax. And they didn't do that. If they did that, it probably would have given the movie more reason to focus on the Fantastic Four's origin. But, and who cares? I love Brain Dead Johnny. He contributes nothing, and that's all he really needs to do. He doesn't bother asking the important questions, like why am I on fire? All he does is accept it. He gets powers, and the first thing he does is sell it, get in front of the paparazzi, and then work King out. It's kind of funny how there are two distinct eras of 21st century pop culture. Everyone's got a different, and each are signified with Chris Evans. Sure, kids today only know about Captain America Chris Evans, who has the heart of Steve Rogers and does what's right, which often means fighting the deep state, and then Chris Evans is the face of an era that dominated the 2010s. He was also kind of responsible for Disney Plus and State Entertainment as it is, so kind of the 2020s too. But there's another Chris Evans, the fuckboy Chris Evans, the Chris Evans of Cellular, the Chris Evans of Not Another Teen Movie, the douchebag, the jackass. That was my favorite Chris Evans. And that Chris Evans has made me remember now for being Johnny Snow. He's the perfect summary of what this era of Fantastic Four even was. Flashy, over the top, and kind of brain dead. And for the last 20 years, he is 100% what people think of when they imagine Johnny Snow.
Fucking bone!
The dead. Never noticed that battle because
Fires and not understanding what the fuck I'm saying.
Despite being a literal cartoon character, Ben is the realest of them all. You can rate the Fantastic Four adaptation solely on how well they handle the Thing. Sometimes he's depressed because he looks like a ground-type Joe Rogan. Other times he's optimistic, trying to make the best out of looking like that. In the 60s cartoon, he just won't shut the fuck up. He's a character that's sometimes hard to strike a balance with. Yet, despite this movie's many flaws, man, do they do Ben Grimm right. If there's a sole reason I'm glad that these movies exist, it's because it's so many people's first introduction to the Thing, and it nailed him.
Victor ain't that bad, huh? He's like a little larger than life, right?
Michael Chiklis is great here. John Shield himself. When I read the comics, I read it in his grisly, deepened Chainsmoker voice.
Stop.
They nail what makes Ben work. His life can be so unrealistically miserable, yet he just keeps chugging along. His fiancée takes one look at him, screams and runs away. And then after he saves the day and the city accepts him, she still just looks at him and gets the ick. She drops their engagement ring on the road, and he can't even pick it up. That's so fucked. He can't eat food right because he'll eat the fork, and also he has 4 fingers, and then the only creature that doesn't judge him literally takes a shit on him. Johnny is being Johnny, so for the worst week of this man's life, Johnny is just reveling in his pain.
Oh, yeah, you think this is bad? You should have seen it before.
I'm gonna go kill him.
Look at his poor face after Johnny steals his orange juice. What an awful existence. Still, Ben takes it in stride. He's just like, oh man, geez, what a shame. They kind of just speedrun his whole relationship with Alicia. She's blind, he's made of rocks. They're perfect for each other. So Doom tricks Ben into becoming normal again using this machine, right? But Ben realizes he got duped and turns himself back into the Thing. I like that. That's great. Small nitpick. Well, really big nitpick, actually. Reed has a machine now that can make everyone lose their powers. So Ben can transform between Ben and the Thing anytime he wants now. It's something that Reed even points out.
And I think if I could rework the power series...
Hey, good on him for accepting his condition. But also, he doesn't have to have a condition anymore. Being the Thing could just be his job. Say they gotta go battle some bad guy. Just jump into the machine. Then after work, jump back in. Go back to normal. But instead, he just doesn't do that. He's just like, nah, I'm good. I don't know how I feel about that. So much of the Thing's character is the fact that he wants to become normal again. He's just trying to make the best of a bad situation. But here, in this movie, He actively enjoys being a rock monster. Because, apparently, Alicia prefers that he's that.
Aggressive.
Better than good, baby.
Ready to de-stress your travel plans? Here's how Lyft gets it done. You can schedule your airport drop-off up to 90 days in advance. You'll lock in your price and pick up time and avoid any last-minute price surges. Plus, if your driver is more than 10 minutes late, you get up to $100 in Lyft cash. There's a ride option for everyone. Enjoy some downtime with an extra comfort ride, or keep the whole crew together with a Lyft XL, big enough for your group and all their luggage.
Oh. I will be honest, I don't understand why this movie has such terrible reviews. It's not perfect or anything, I've established that, and I guess if you want to be a little nerd, Dr. Doom was done terribly, but 28% on Rotten Tomatoes? 28%? Thor 4 got a 63. Thor 4, with the screaming goats. So, either half of Thor's budget went directly to paying off critics, or our standards have truly fallen to new lows. Have my standards fallen that low? I, the guy who defends Transformers 3 and unironically loves 2012? Are my standards that bad? Something to think about. I don't think that's all what's going on here. Oh no. This movie's biggest issue wasn't just Dr. Doom or a bland Mr. Fantastic. I think its main issue was timing. So, a year before this movie released, Spider-Man 2 came out. A few months later, Pixar dropped The Incredibles, a modern classic, a direct homage to the Fantastic Four. What I think gets often overlooked is that just a month before Fantastic Four premiered, there was Batman Begins. Batman Begins is a little more schlocky compared to The Dark Knight, but for the time, this was like a meteor to comic book movies. It felt like an art house film compared to, say, X-Men 2. In 2005, for some reason, there were just dark, gritty, realistic takes on superheroes. Batman Begins was what people craved. Then Fantastic Four came out a month later. It was colorful, silly, and lighthearted. Something that would fit right into comic book movies today. But that was not what audiences wanted at the time. This wasn't charming. This was dorky. This was Blinks the Cat in a world ready for Gears of War. Timing matters so much in movies. A few years earlier, this tone would have been par for the course. A few years later, this would have been seen as a breath of fresh air. But Fantastic Four didn't have that luck. It wasn't good enough to be a Spider-Man 2. It had to compete against Batman. It wasn't perfect, but it wasn't a 28% either. I think it simply started off on the wrong foot. And the problem was, because of that, it became a laughingstock. It was just universally agreed that the Fantastic Four movie was lame. Hell, the Fantastic Four as characters were just lame. And the idea stuck. Here's how I view this. With time, any bad creative decision eventually becomes harmless. There's always going to be some new way these characters are rebooted. Any character. The current rendition of a character you love is just another stepping stone as decades go on. There was an old version of the character you like, and there will be a new version of the character you like. That's how it goes. As a society, we have moved on from this version of Fantastic Four, and we have learned there are far worse ways to adapt them.
Hey, bothering time.
You can have a flawed script, a bad plot, but at the end of the day, because this movie preserves, for the most part, the essence of the Fantastic Four, I think it will only help it age more gracefully than other movies. It wasn't perfect, but it was just enough to get a sequel. And maybe, in that one, they can do the characters a little more justice. But that's a story for another time. Slobbering time.
Found him to be a little limp. So what, you quietly worried about Brad consistency and skill? Let me help you out.
One of the hardest parts about scaling an e-commerce brand is maintaining consistency while increasing creative volume. After all, we know that creative is the new targeting in performance marketing. Eventually, your brand hits a point where you as the founder or brand owner can no longer personally review every ad, campaign, and creative asset before it launches. That's usually when things start slipping. The messaging drifts a bit, the visuals become inconsistent, the brand starts feeling fragmented across multiple different platforms. And now you have a broken system. And most systems, they optimize for speed instead of brand integrity. That's why Marketer.com was built differently. Inside the platform, creative workflows are connected to systems designed to protect your code, visual identity, and creative standards while your output scales. I'd love to show you how it works. So, book a demo.
What I would say to my younger self: go after things more. Don't be scared of failure, because you will fail, but you don't know unless you try.
This video was sponsored by Factor. So, Spider-Man. You don't need an introduction. He's Spider-Man. You probably knew who Spider-Man was before you knew about your own sentience. I know I certainly did. I knew about him before Batman, before Superman. I didn't know who the Joker was, but I sure knew about Mysterio and the Lizard. Maybe it's a generational thing. The 90s had Batman, sure, but the 2000s were dominated by Spidey. My brother and I had so many Spidey things. We still even have the Spider-Man skateboard from 2001. I loved Spider-Man. I still like Spider-Man, no matter how much Marvel bungles everything. Spider-Man was Marvel's biggest face before the MCU, and Spider-Man will be Marvel's biggest face after the MCU. But there's a time not too long ago when it felt like that wasn't the case. There's a time when Spidey movies were a joke, a sheer act of hubris by Sony. There's a time 4 words sent shivers down the spines of any man-child in the 2010s. Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. So I'm here to ask a very important question. What was the big deal? There have been 3 distinct phases of Spider-Man live-action movies. The Raimi movies. Yes, I know. We all love them. Okay, stop clapping. Shut up. The Tom Holland movies, who is still Spider-Man after 10 years. Yes, you are old. Then there's the middle child. The black sheep, as far as most are concerned. The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. To the cheers of everyone in 2014, there was never a third. These movies were hated back then. Don't let the scores today lie to you. The internet back then showed no mercy. They were the easiest punching bags. I was on the internet at the time. I was in the trenches. I watched anything that made fun of these movies. And that's just kind of how it was. The Garfield movies were a mistake. That's how I saw it. That's how I thought everyone saw it. Until last year. You see, a few months ago on Twitter, I started getting bombarded with the same clip over and over again from those Cinema Bot accounts. And all these posts were the same, praising the opening of Amazing Spider-Man 2. And I kind of got annoyed, because this isn't the opening of Amazing Spider-Man 2. This is the second scene in Amazing Spider-Man 2. The real opening is Peter Parker's parents dying in a plane crash. That annoyance spawned this video.
I think most people would say that he was providing public service. Most people would be wrong.
I watched all the Spider-Man movies for this video, except that one. And the reason I did that was to really put the Garfield movies into perspective. Because movies aren't made in a vacuum. They're products of their time and place, and responses to what came before. And what came before the Garfield movies was this guy.
Pizza time.
What a joy it was to revisit the Raimi movies, for many reasons. I've realized I enjoy these for an entirely different reason than I did as a kid. In 2004 I saw this and just thought, Spider-Man. But as an adult I see this and think, holy shit, that's the Evil Dead. Sam Raimi has such a distinct style. It warms my heart knowing that audiences went into theaters in 2001 and just accepted this at face value. I've seen takes about how the Raimi films have aged poorly or are worse than you remember, and I just can't agree with that. No movie in the 2000s looked like this. That's just Raimi. He's still doing shit like this to this day. It's so good. As a grown adult, I can view these movies as what they were intended to be. Pure camp. Oh boy. And that's not a bad thing. Camp is not a bad word. Camp doesn't mean ironic. It doesn't mean so bad it's good. It means heightened. Camp is a bunch of business tycoons turning into skeletons and being played completely straight. These are sincere movies with a dramatic story and serious characters told in a wacky way. They are meant to be funny and serious at the same time. That's the real beauty. The first two could juggle all these different tones without skipping a beat. The third one is, well, a different story.
I like being bad. It makes me happy.
Spider-Man 3 is bad, but it's not bad for the reasons people thought it was in 2007. Everything with Bully Maguire is a piece of modern art. The jazz scene was too advanced for the general public's feeble little minds. While 3 landed with a mixed reception, at least at the end of the day, the trilogy was over. Spider-Man 3 was, in fact, an ending. Was it a good ending? Was it a bad ending?
It's an ending. That's enough.
But you know, the rumors still persisted. The cope was still real. That maybe, just maybe, we could get a Spider-Man 4. Maybe the Raimi films could redeem themselves. Get a proper send-off. Maybe we could even pretend Spider-Man 3 was just a mistake. It didn't matter. Shrek 4 style.
Boy, that's never gonna happen.
Yeah, we never got a Spider-Man 4. Sony was doing a full reboot, which, funnily enough, it didn't even seem like many people minded at the time. At least in all the forums I could find. You really forget how hated Spider-Man 3 was. Everyone just went, okay, fine, start over. As long as it's not another origin story. Then it was another origin story.
Don't panic, the 75 on the Smash right now. 75, 45.
Hey, I'm Chef Bobby Blumendelli. As a broke college student who fights crime, I ironically do not have the time to cook. Which is funny because my superhero persona is also a chef. Luckily, I have a sponsor today's video, Facta. Facta delivers delicious cooked meals right to your door. All you gotta do is put them in the microwave for 2 minutes and you're ready to go. I went with the Chef Choice meals for this one. I had such quality options like chimichurri, filet mignon. Wow, it tasted good. I like steak. How about some pasta? They got pasta too. I forgot to record what the actual name was, but trust me, it's quality stuff. These are meals made with balanced macros and at least 2 vegetables per meal, built to help you hit your nutrition goals this summer. 97% of people say Facta has helped them live an easier life. So why not try Facta out? It's an easy way to have home-cooked meals for those who don't have the time to cook. Like yours truly, I'm beating up thugs in the street. Head to Facta75.com or click the link below and use code POINTLESSHUBFB50 to get 50% off your first Facta box plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code POINTLESSHUBFB50 at Facta75.com to get 50% off plus free breakfast for 1 year. Now, if you don't mind me, I gotta go swing from the buildings. That's my bit this month. That's what I'm doing. In 2000, Marvel rebooted many classic characters with the Ultimate series. For the first time since its inception, Spider-Man's origin was retold. Considering by this point Spidey had over 4 decades of a floating timeline, a reboot made sense to your average comic reader. For your average movie watcher, though, a reboot did not make sense. Especially after the most successful trilogy of the 2000s. The Amazing Spider-Man, ironically, should not be called Amazing Spider-Man. It has more in common with Ultimate Spider-Man, if anything. Peter Spider-Bite is connected directly to Oscorp. His parents died in a plane crash. In the behind the scenes, Dennis Leary says he was casted because he looks like Ultimate Captain Stacy. That's really where the similarities end, but my point here is that Ultimate was meant to be the jumping on point for new fans. The Amazing Spider-Man kinda just confused people. Today, your average moviegoer gets the whole multiverse thing. Hell, Spider-Man has like 3 movies about that by now. But rebooting the character back in 2012 just felt wrong. Redoing the Spidey origin only 5 years after Spider-Man 3 felt wrong. Like, that's the time difference from now and No Way Home. The best comparison I could make here is Batman. And Warner Bros. At least waited 8 years before having the most drastic tonal shift ever. Can't believe these came out less than a decade apart. That's fucked up.
What killed the dinosaurs?
The selling point for Batman Begins made sense. There was a big difference. But for The Amazing Spider-Man, it wasn't following up Batman and Robin, though it was following up this. In the behind the scenes, the studio said that this new Spider-Man would be more realistic, more grounded, an opportunity to explore Peter Parker in a high school environment, which the original trilogy moved on from too fast. And while I'm sure there was genuine interest from those involved in doing a different take on Spider-Man, this is still Sony. The main reason they did a reboot was because Spider-Man 3 was the 12th highest grossing movie of the 2000s, and also to retain the rights. The biggest hurdle Amazing Spider-Man could never swing over was being compared to the Raimi trilogy. And for your average moviegoer whose only exposure to Spider-Man were those 3 films, if things were different, they were wrong. There is a lot wrong with the Amazing Spider-Man series, but it's also unfair to judge the movie based on what the Raimi ones did. These are 2 different takes on Spider-Man. I remember always seeing Uncle Ben's speech made fun of because it's like the writer is trying so hard not to repeat great power, great responsibility. But this isn't even copying the Raimi movies. It's what Ben says in the Ultimate comics.
But your father lived by a philosophy, a principle, really. He believed that if you could do good things for other people, you had a moral obligation to do those things.
I don't think it was the wrong move for Amazing Spider-Man to go with this more grounded approach. I just think it should have been executed better. We have to watch Peter get bit by a spider again, but worse. Like, instead of just wandering in a lab with other students, he breaks into a secret vault full of mysterious spiders that all fall on him at the same time. How the hell was he only bitten once? And we also had to watch Uncle Ben die again, but worse. Actually, no, I take that back. The way Uncle Ben dies is just so funny, I can't hate it. So after getting bit, Peter starts acting out, of course. Absolutely dunks on Flash with his sick-ass moves. After getting into a fight with Uncle Ben, Peter storms out to go buy some milk at a bodega, like you do. But he can't buy his milk because he's a few cents short. So Peter tries to steal from Charity for some reason, like an asshole, and that doesn't go over well either. Peter walks out all mad, milkless, and alone, and then the guy behind him epically pranks the cashier, stealing the money out of his open register. The dude then throws the milk to Peter because he's just cool like that. Upon realizing he's been mogged, the cashier yells to the uncaring streets of New York to stop the guy who stole money out of his register. His cries fall on deaf ears for all, except for Uncle Ben, who is out and about trying to find Peter. The robber trips on some people, falls, and his gun slips out onto the street right in front of old Ben. So what is Uncle Ben to do in this moment? What would you do in this situation? I'll tell you what Ben does.
If you're mom, then you know just how expensive it is to feed a house full of kids. Luckily, if you take just a few minutes to sign up, you can earn 3.75% APY on your savings with Chime, so your money grows faster. Plus, you get fee-free banking. So now, while I'm spending on groceries, my savings are still working for me in the background. Sign up now, and you'll thank me later.
He thought he was the only one who knew how it worked. He taught me everything I needed to end him.
How are you in here?
Enjoy the ride.
That's the end of a trailer I made for a film called Sandbox. No camera, no crew, no action. Probably not the smartest move. Uncle Ben was kind of a dumbass. Now, it might seem cruel to laugh at that, but was Uncle Ben in any danger from this robber? In other incarnations, he's getting robbed directly on his property, but this Ben is just strolling the street. This robber stole from the cash register, which, yeah, is wrong, but he didn't use the gun in a crime. In a way, this robber's personal property fell onto the ground, which Uncle Ben then leaped for to try to take it from him. What I'm saying here is that Uncle Ben was robbing this man. Now, you may disagree with that, and I'm not a lawyer, I'm mainly goofing, but my main point is that the movie made Ben's death way more complicated than it needed to be. It should not be up to debate in a court of law whether or not Uncle Ben was the aggressor in the situation where he fucking died. What lesson is Peter supposed to take away from this? Don't accept milk from shoplifters? Was he supposed to tackle this guy the second the cashier beckoned him to do it? Was it his fault that old Ben was walking the street waiting to fight some random criminal that came upon his way? He really gets no clear lesson at first. Peter's lesson in the first movie is kind of just his arc throughout the movie. He only wears the mask because he's going around profiling criminals that might resemble the guy who Uncle Ben tried to rob. But you know, by the end, he learns an important lesson, that being Spider-Man is pretty neat. I remember one of the biggest complaints about Garfield's Peter Parker was that he's too cool. He's too attractive. Which, man, imagine being Tobey Maguire and hearing that. That's kind of rude. You're telling me this isn't the perfect man? They love me. A common sentiment back in the day was that Andrew Garfield was too cool to be Peter Parker. I think 90% of those complaints were really just because he had a skateboard. And I agree, the skateboard was dumb as hell. You could just see the studio meddling to make this Peter modern and relatable. But it wasn't just the studio involved here. Director Mark Webb purposely didn't want Peter Parker to be a nerd. He wanted to reimagine Peter as an outsider, as a drifter.
I view Peter Parker as, not as necessarily as a nerd per se, because I think nerd in the current world means a different thing.
I don't know, Mark Webb. I think nerds still existed by the early 2010s. I was one of them. I get why they made this creative choice, though. They didn't want to repeat what the Raimi movies did with Tobey, and Tobey was kind of a nerd the entire time.
No, I used to see this show. They just let me in. I was standing there.
Also, dressing Andrew Garfield up like Urkel probably wouldn't have worked. Now that said, I don't think the movie sets it up well at all that Peter is an outsider either. Like, Gwen seems to like him. The only thing Peter does that makes him an outsider, I guess, is telling Flash to stop bullying a kid. Spider-Man in these two movies is the best visually we've ever seen in live action. But there's one major problem with Garfield's Spidey, at least in this movie. Peter and Spider-Man don't feel like the same guy. Let me explain. Amazing Spider-Man tries to have more realistic dialogue, with people tripping over each other's words or wandering in and out.
You want to, I don't know.
What?
Just,
It's doing a different thing than the Raimi movies, where literally every line was precise and purposeful.
He stole that guy's pizza.
But the beauty of Tobey Maguire is that he's already kind of a fucking weird guy. He didn't need to try to be awkward. That's just him.
And to you for sending in your questions. Please check out
Go see our movie.
Andrew Garfield is not awkward, though. He comes off like a guy actively trying to be more awkward than he actually is. And you can see through the illusion. This hurts Peter the most, because he'll bounce between this awkward, aw shucks guy to, well, Spider-Man. In the comics, Spidey talks a lot, and that's fine. Spidey never shuts the fuck up, that's just his thing. Spidey allows Peter to say stuff he normally wouldn't. Like he can insult Jameson right to his face and get away with it. When it comes to adapting that, though, you have to balance that right. Spidey and Peter should feel like the same guy, and half the time here, he doesn't. It's like Peter literally changes personalities the second he puts on the mask.
Okay. I gotta tell you this one thing. And it's about the vigilante and the car thief, alright?
Tom Bruner's being bad as a
The movie tries so hard to juggle its lovable, awkward Peter and this chatty, sarcastic Bug. It just comes off as Peter is either faking his awkwardness or the Spider-Man mask works like the Jim Carrey one, and he becomes a funny cartoon character.
My name is Steve Chen. I'm the co-founder of YouTube. YouTube de-risks putting yourself out there. It started at first as like a dating site for a week. I don't even know where to begin. I would be unemployed without this brand.
And it's not just me. All of our lives have been changed by YouTube in one way or another. Watching videos on your computer or your phone has become such a normal way of life. It's like having running water or air conditioning. You don't even really think about it. But not too long ago, you couldn't just pull up a makeup tutorial or a food review or even a cat video just whenever you wanted. That is, until Steve Chen, along with his co-founders Chad Hurley and Jawed Kareem, created the website YouTube that allowed for all of us to begin sharing our lives and information like modern civilization had never seen before. And those cat videos? Well, Steve was literally the first person ever posted on YouTube.
Today, YouTube's fingerprint on every facet of media is undeniable. It ushered in the modern era of streaming services and social media platforms that transformed how we consume content. It catalyzed entire businesses and industries around the independent content creator economy, like Wallfleet Productions. It democratized access to audiences and redefined what fame and influence was. The world is completely different because of the invention of YouTube.
This afternoon, in the heart of Silicon Valley, I got to meet Steve and reflect on the impact of his invention.
Such an honor to sit next to my boss, actually.
Oh, come on.
I work for you. I'm still working for you, technically, like, with your platform.
You should see the content that I try to create. I can't do what you do.
Let's start back at the beginning, though. You know, you were born in Taiwan, but moved when you were 7 to the States. I can only imagine being an immigrant kid in the Midwest in the 80s. How was that like for you?
I mean, I think that during that whole process, so it was finishing second grade in Taiwan, and so that was sort of in between years, and then starting third grade in the suburbs of Chicago. My entire family, my younger brother, my parents, they never lived in the U.S., and so we were all kind of figuring it out. I mean, we were the only Asian family in that entire area.
Do you remember a specific time where you realized, oh, I'm different, I'm Asian, and I'm different from the Americans?
Definitely. They're not.
If they had just toned Peter's personality down in either direction, it could have worked more for me. There's a lot to love about this version of Spider-Man, like the scene on the bridge. The Lizard was rampaging, as he does, and Spidey has to catch all the cars being flung into the river. One car still has a kid in it. Peter takes off his mask, gives it to the kid, and with that courage, the kid climbs up to get saved. It's a great scene. It kind of encapsulates Garfield's Spider-Man for me. Gwen Stacy. No, not that one, not that one, or the river. One car still has a kid in it. Peter takes off his mask, gives it to the kid, and with that courage, the kid climbs up to get saved. It's a great scene. It kind of encapsulates Garfield's Spider-Man for me. Gwen Stacy. No, not that one, not that one, or that one. Yes, that one.
Sorry, I love you.
She's the best love interest in any of these movies, right? That's not even a controversial take. Even people that dislike these movies like Gwen. These two have some real chemistry. Like, sometimes too much chemistry. Should I be watching this? I can leave if you guys want. I gotta go pick up some groceries anyway. And you might think, oh, well, of course these two have chemistry. It's because they were dating in real life. Well, guess what, bucko? Every Spidey couple is dated in real life. That's just a thing that happens. Amazing Spider-Man was the only one that actually translated that onto the screen. What this movie does is excel at letting people just be people. That's what it does well, if anything. They got the guy who did 500 Days of Summer into a Spider-Man movie, and you can tell.
What's your name? You don't know my name? No, I know your name. I just want to know if you know your name.
These movies might have bullshit plots, pretty dumb writing, and questionable creative decisions, but I do enjoy those little moments between characters in Peter's life. That's nice, you know, for the most part.
That's a question. That's a question.
Peter and Gwen is what makes these movies special. Not because any of their conversations are especially funny or memorable, but they do feel real. It's like these two have a dumb language only they understand.
I don't know, we could, or we could do something else, or we could,
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, either one.
Stuff that feels kinda cringy to watch as an outsider looking in, but it works, oddly enough. The strength of their relationship is conveyed more in these little moments than any grand gesture or kissing upside down. In a very talented cast with Andrew Garfield, Martin Sheen, and Sally Field, Emma Stone steals the show. She's the clear highlight. She honestly salvages a lot of these scenes bouncing off of whatever awkward thing Andrew Garfield is trying to do. She's always on Peter's level. And that's why it's such a breath of fresh air that he just rips off the Band-Aid and tells her he's Spider-Man immediately. Now, I know that in the comics, Peter constantly flubbing his relationships because of his secret is a pretty core part of the character, but man, can it be frustrating sometimes. Spider-Man 2 explored that to its painful limit, with Peter not even being able to show up to a damn play. When Peter dated Gwen in the comics, so much of their relationship was Peter just bolting off whenever something went wrong, and she thought he was just a little bitch. And yes, once again, that is a part of the character. But for the general audience, that would just seem like repeating what the Raimi movies did.
Oh, that Blu-ray was a real hero.
So they just have Gwen find out immediately and save us another ride on the misunderstanding carousel. I like that. This Gwen is too interesting of a character to just be constantly putting up with the same Peter excuses. This early reveal also introduced an interesting dynamic into the mix, as now it's not just Peter's secret to keep anymore, it's their secret as a couple. Which means mainly making sure that Gwen's dad, Captain Stacy, doesn't find out. Captain Stacy is the most important character in both movies. At first you think he's just going to be a standard cop who dislikes the hero for doing his job better than him. But then, come the scene at dinner, you realize, oh damn, this guy's actually right.
The car thief was leading us to the people who run the entire operation. It's been a 6-month-long sting. It's called strategy. I'm sure you're aware of the term strategy.
He knows Spidey is profiling criminals that look the same in some quest for revenge. And up until now, that's exactly what Peter is doing, even if he tries to rationalize otherwise. This isn't some J. Jonah Jameson type of beef. He knows that this type of costume stuff is only gonna lead to trouble, which is why he has his final dying wish be one very simple promise.
Leave Gwen.
That seems pretty cut and dry, right? A dying father doesn't want his daughter involved in any of this dumb bullshit. A giant lizard man just impaled him. It's understandable. And Peter does keep that promise for like 10 minutes.
Don't make promises you can't keep, Miss Parker.
Yeah, but those are the best kind.
As much of an easy dunk it would be for me to just roast this, I want to be a little fair. Like, in the next movie, Peter's having Halo 3 level hallucinations of Captain Stacy. He's appearing like Cortana because Peter is so overcome with guilt that he keeps seeing Gwen. That said, though, the ending line was still dumb as hell.
Those are the best kind.
What does that line even mean, Peter? Why would you say that? A man is dead. Why would she even smile at that? She knows what he means. She knows he made a promise to her dad. It's just a weird emotion to leave the audience with. It's meant to be all quirky and fun, like, Peter broke his promise to a dying man. Oh well, he'll learn the hard way, I guess.
What if I told you that you don't have to wait until payday? That's why y'all need to know about Earn It. With Earn It, you can access up to $150 a day of money that you've already earned with your paycheck, with a max of $1,000 between paydays. You can choose how much to cash out any day that you need to, and without any mandatory fees. It's literally just something to give you more control over when you actually get your money. You're working hard every day, right? So why not actually get paid like it? Download the app, connect your bank account, and see what's available for you.
It's a one-on-one 2-hour VA coffee. Actually, I'm chilling right now.
The biggest tragedy of Amazing Spider-Man is that as much as I'd like to praise it for its different sense of direction or the chemistry between Peter and Gwen, at the end of the day, this is a movie about stopping a lizard man from turning everyone into lizards. The Lizard is my second favorite Spider-Man villain. Sorry, Connors, nothing can beat Mysterio, which is why it pains me that the live-action Lizard we're stuck with is this one. Gah, I will never like this design. I can forgive this movie so much, but I cannot forgive that. I get they're trying to do the whole humanoid reptile thing, but they did not have to. The Lizard is supposed to look like a lizard. Even in his original look, he at least had a snout. He's not even that green. And worst of all, he only wears his lab coat once. This is just a naked man with a skin infection. I don't care if he's supposed to look uncanny. I wanted a cool-ass dinosaur. I would have sacrificed every precious Peter and Gwen moment just for that. They say art is... In this case, oh no, it's objective. The tragedy here is that the Lizard could have worked so well, but he just doesn't. I have nothing against Rhys Ifans, Rhys Ifans, Otto Hightower. He does fine. But the biggest problem with Curt Connors in this movie is that he's just too isolated. Curt Connors should not be off-putting. He's a family man. He has a loving wife and son who deeply care about him. And that part of his character is what makes him so distinct from all the other weirdos. It's what makes him tragic. He's a guy who had one bad experiment, and now, on occasion, he might transform and become a monster at a moment's notice. That's something that could have easily been worked into another origin movie for Spider-Man. Connors is trying to regrow his arm, and Peter casually fixes his formula. Peter feels guilty that he's kind of contributed to Connors turning into the Lizard. Like the Raimi movies gave the Sandman this whole sad backstory he didn't have in the comics. He looks at his daughter's picture and a sad theme plays. Meanwhile, in this movie, the actual family man is just the guy that turns people into lizards with fart clouds. That's all the general audience is ever going to think of him as. Hey, Future Cody here editing this video. So apparently they did give him a son in a deleted scene. The kid is never mentioned again. This climax, man, is just... Oh no, the Lizard is about to gas up all of New York. Watch out. It ends with a cliche light in the sky. And it's just like, okay. It's so funny that the Lizard finds out Peter is Spider-Man because Peter just has his name on the camera. I thought you were supposed to be smart. Overall, Amazing Spider-Man 1 is alright. Funnily enough, it works best after watching all 3 Raimi movies in a row. You'd think it would look worse in comparison, but it really just helps illuminate what they intentionally did differently, so it wasn't just more of the same. Amazing Spider-Man 1 was, if anything, a decent base to build something on. If the sequel was good, then Sony would kind of have a home run on their hands. All they had to do was wind up the bat and hit the ball. It's Spider-Man. What could go wrong? They somehow burned down the baseball field.
Sign up in minutes and get overdraft coverage up to $200. Stay in the game.
Open a Chime account in minutes and get overdraft coverage up to $200.
This video is sponsored by Factor. Failure and mistakes are a part of life. We all make mistakes sometimes. Fail a test, trip down the stairs, tank a show. Companies can make mistakes too. Like Sony. Sony's made a lot of mistakes. They made the PS3 too expensive. They got hacked by North Koreans. Those seem like big mistakes, and they were. But you know what? In my opinion, those are nothing compared to Sony's greatest failure, which was everything that happened with Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now you might be thinking, there is no way this movie was a bigger mistake than a console launch that almost killed the company. And yeah, that's understandable. The PS3's launch was disastrous. They were losing over $300 on every console sold. But at the same time, the failure of Amazing Spider-Man 2 gave us Morbius. So, fun fact, originally I was going to have both of these movies be in one big video. But halfway through writing, I realized that these are two very different films. The first Amazing Spider-Man was going with a more realistic and darker direction. This was the late 2000s. Everyone wanted to be the Dark Knight. Now, I'm not saying that Amazing Spider-Man copied from Nolan or anything. They were distinctly inspired by the Ultimate Comics. But in my opinion, I think the reason the studio even went with the tone of Ultimate in the first place was because of this greater Hollywood trend. Amazing Spider-Man 1 came out in 2012, which for comic book movies might as well be 65 million BC, because on that year, everyone died of a meteor. The Avengers changed everything, but it really, and I mean really, changed Sony. Because now Sony wanted a cinematic universe of their own, and by golly, they were gonna get it, no matter which movie suffered. Which brings me to Amazing Spider-Man 2. Okay, look, I get that there's some people that like this movie. If you're one of those people, if you think that it's great, that's okay. I still think it's pretty bad. Yeah, even though I enjoyed the first movie, I have to admit something went terribly wrong with the sequel. But still, even after saying that, there's a few reasons I think that people do like this movie. And I got a list of them right here. For one, nostalgia. If you saw this as a kid, then of course you're gonna have fond memories over it. I have fond memories from Agent Cody Banks. Doesn't mean I think it was great, too. There are genuine good moments in this film. Now, with anything involving the plot is still god-awful. But the characters are nice. They feel like real people, and especially nowadays for mainstream movies, that's hard to come by. And that kind of contributes to number 3. Some people really don't like MCU Spider-Man. It's history's greatest monster! If there's one thing this duology has, it's got hype moments and aura. Kind of like another child. This movie looks very good. Personally, I think it's the best Spider-Man has ever looked in live action. Yes, Raimi fans, you heard me. This movie has so many dynamic poses. It's like something from a panel. The Tom Holland movies didn't really do that. Was it because this version of Spider-Man was younger and less experienced? Or is it because John Watts is a talentless fraud like the internet says? You decide. Amazing Spider-Man 2 is like a bag of randomly flavored jelly beans. Some flavors are really good. Some of my favorite flavors in a Spider-Man film. And some flavors taste like dog shit. A movie isn't good because of a decent ending, or small moments, or the swinging. It's the full package. A lot of the new praise is coming from places like TikTok and Twitter, because people are only seeing the enjoyable jelly beans. They can just ignore half the plot being about Peter's stupid parents or Spider-Man blood. Are you wrong for enjoying this movie? No. You can enjoy any movie for any reason. But I do just want to say this. If you are a fan, please stop trying to spread the gospel that Amazing Spider-Man 2 is some hidden gem. It's really not.
It's just the wrist. It's all the wrist, buddy.
It's got some good moments. That's it. Our standards are just in the gutter.
Reddit. Install it now.
Some things are worth protecting. Your devices are among them. Learn more at internet website aikido.dev/10pm.
Hi, I'm Chef Bobby Bubadelli, and I'll be honest, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't even cook, But I don't need to, thanks to the sponsor of today's video, Factor. Factor delivers delicious cooked meals right to your door. All you have to do is microwave them for 2 minutes and you're ready to go. I went with the Chef Choice meals, so I had such options like short rib penne primavera, oh my, ribs, and this kebab chicken bowl. These are meals made with balanced macros and at least 2 vegetables per meal, built to help you hit your nutrition goals this summer. 97% of people say Factor has helped them live an easier life. Eating clean has never been easier thanks to Factor. So why not try Factor out? It's an easy way to have home-cooked meals for those that don't have the time to cook. Head to Factor75.com or click the link below and use code PointlessHubFB50 to get 50% off your first Factor box plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code PointlessHubFB50 at Factor75.com to get 50% off plus free breakfast for 1 year. Pointless Hub FB50 at Factor75.com. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Now, if you don't mind me, I gotta go find myself. What's my purpose? Who is Bobby Boobadelli? So, because this was originally meant to be one video, there was a major plot point I didn't talk about from the original movie, and that was Peter Parker's parents. Oh boy. Here's the thing. Peter's parents don't really matter. Spider-Man is one of the biggest characters in the world, but does anybody know the name of his mom and dad? Do you think if you went to a comic convention, many would even know? Or hell, what their job even was? Because you'd think it'd be like scientists or something. But guess what, bucko? In the mainline comic, they were CIA agents. This is the funniest and stupidest piece of lore, and nobody gives a shit about it because nobody cares about these two. So, what if we took these incredibly irrelevant characters and gave them a whole corporate conspiracy subplot? You're funny. Hey, with good guys. I swear, this stupid parent arc brought these movies down at least 2 points on a review scale. People accuse the Garfield movies of trying so hard to be different for the sake of being different, and most of the time they're kind of wrong, except for when it comes to the parents. Maybe they're right. This is some time-wasting nonsense to make a reboot